before us. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and board members, we do have a couple of changes.
Okay,
So we'd like to add as new business number 15. Consideration to approve an annexation agreement as submitted by the City of Springfield for properties owned by Dalen Properties LLC. Additionally, we request to postpone new business number 9, which is an agreement. Consideration to approve a water and sewer agreement and lease agreement with Effingham County Industrial Authority and Savannah Industrial Development LLC. Those are our changes tonight.
so number 9 is
To be postponed to August 16th.
August 16th. So we have one addition, item number 15,
Yes, sir.
and postponement of new business number 9.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the noted changes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve the agenda with the 2 noted changes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, we have our agenda. We have our minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the July 19th minutes, meeting minutes, and the July 21st workshop session minutes? If there's not any corrections or additions, do I have a motion to approve?
I'm not voting on this on account I wasn't here the whole time.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve both sets of minutes as presented.
Second. Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the minutes as presented by our clerk. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And we'll show that Commissioner Loper abstained. Welcome, everyone. Got a good crowd tonight for a lot of hopefully enjoyable business to work together as a community for the better of our community. Comments tonight should be to agenda items. Couple minutes. I'm going to try to be real careful about letting this get out of control when we have a lot of business to do, prolongs our meetings, and people don't get to be heard, and we don't get to have discussions we need. So 2 or 3 minutes, if you have an agenda item that you want to speak to tonight, that'll be welcomed. All the correspondence, the documents are in our clerk's office or on our website. Hopefully you've had a chance to pull those up and look at those, and you're prepared to make a comment or ask a question at the appropriate time. And with that, we're going to move into our consent agenda. We have several items again on our consent agenda. There's 4 of them. I have to read each one, and if I do that, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as I am reading it. Item number 1, an agreement. Consideration to approve the updated probation service agreement with the state court. Item number 2, consideration to approve submittal of a grant application to Petco Foundation Animal Welfare Grant Program. Item number 3, consideration to approve an underground distribution construction and an underground easement agreement with Georgia Power via a property located at 295 Stagecoach Avenue to serve Sand Hill Elementary School. And the last item, number 4, in the consent agreement is consideration to approve sanitation releases as submitted by administrative staff and approved by tax assessor, tax commissioner, and the fire chief. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Kiefer, second, Mr. Floyd, to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We got one item of unfinished business from the previous agenda, and that's the second reading. It says second public hearing. We having a public hearing on this? Okay, so we're gonna have a public hearing, second public hearing, and approval on resolution 22-031 for permanent abandonment of maintenance of the section of Webb Road parallel to the end of the right-of-way of North Fork Southern Railroad. So we'll open a public hearing and let you.
I'll introduce
Introduce
this
it.
item real quickly. Mr. Chairman, it's Eric Larson, Assistant County Manager. This is our public hearing for the closure of a portion of Webb Road. The map is attached in your packet. Webb Road goes from McCall perpendicular to the railroad, and then travels towards the railroad. Then it makes a 90-degree turn and parallels the railroad. When it does the parallel, it's actually on railroad property and not county right-of-way. So the portion we're proposing to abandon maintenance of is the portion that's on railroad right-of-way. We've been advertising for a month. We had a first discussion of this at our June 7th meeting. We have received from Fire, Sheriff, and EMS their concurrence with the closure. And this is to serve, I'll open up, finish up here with the Dasher Point Development, excuse me, I'll get it out in a second. They're the ones that had really prompted us to take a look at this because this road goes in behind those properties, and there's been some trouble with dumping and activity back there because it is open to the public. So, staff is recommending the abandonment and maintenance of that section.
All right, any from the public want to make comments on the abandonment and maintenance of it? Yeah. You come to the mic, state your name, and
Reuben Jenkins.
Mike, and state your name, yeah.
Reuben Jenkins. I own 351, and that road services my property. And you want to end the maintenance or whatever of it. They come in there once a month and scrape it towards my driveway. I maintain it. Mr. Clyde Dyson, I done spoke with him almost 2 years ago. I maintain it, I scrape it, I cut it. And he said that this would probably happen to where y'all wouldn't want to maintain it anymore. And then Mr. Larson tells me that at any time, if y'all turn this back over to the railroad, that they could come in there tomorrow and put a gate up. So now how am I gonna get into my property?
All right, you want to address this question?
Is your property at the very end of Webb?
Yes, sir.
It's not exactly what I said. I said that it will become railroad property, and I will not have any control over what they want to do with it. He asked the question, if they put a gate up, we'd be able to stop it, and I said no. But this property, is my understanding, he can correct me if I'm wrong, can be accessed by another property off of the Webb Road section that we do own and maintain.
Y'all do not.
So there is another section of Webb Road that we own?
No, sir. Comcast cable owns it. That's not true.
The research I did, sir, there was 2 properties that were under his name that were adjacent, and there is a physical access between the 2 going to the section of Webb Road that is paved, that's in the right of way that we're not abandoning.
Yeah, because no property owner can be landlocked. There has to be an access to it.
And I will be landlocked. I will, if they were to come up and put a gate up there, I will be landlocked.
Yeah,
I will have no access.
I don't know that they can landlock you. If they try to do that, if you're correct that you're landlocked, I think that would be stopped. Lee, do you want to speak to that? I mean, I don't think a property owner can be denied access to his property by another property owner.
That's a loaded question, right?
No.
Not a real simple answer, but I would think on this one, I don't believe there's any deeded road to the county. And so what we would have is a prescriptive easement if we've been maintaining it. And I don't know when the last time we maintained that part of Webb Road, because Webb Road comes from McCall and then dead ends, and you take a left and you go to this gentleman's, property that way. When is the last time we maintained that, Eric? Do you know?
I don't have those records with me, but again, thought the microphone could pick me up, sorry.
It might.
I don't have those records with me, but it's my understanding Public Works has not been maintaining that road for some time.
Okay.
And Mr. Gentleman just said that he maintains the road himself, so. But I don't have the
Yeah,
exact records
your
on
bigger
it.
concern is not that you're maintaining it, you just don't want to be gated off where you can't get to your property.
Exactly.
Are you accessing from 21 or from McCall?
I mean, it comes off of McCall to Webb Road, and then it takes a left to come into my driveway, which is also Webb Road.
Right before it gets to the railroad tracks.
Yes.
So you're accessing from McCall? Or from 21?
That road makes like a 7. You see how I'm saying? It comes off of McCall,
I see it.
and that's Webb Road, and it goes down to the railroad track. And then it takes a left, and it's Webb Road again.
Right, and heads up toward 21.
Yes, sir.
That's right. So but how do you access that? From 21 or McCall? Or does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, 21 to McCall and take a left on Webb Road and then come down and,
I don't think we're abandoning the whole Webb Road, are we? Is it just?
no,
the part that's marked?
just my driveway.
So the other part of Webb, is that not accessible?
And I told him, I said, that would be fine if y'all wanted to stop at mine, because Webb Road goes on down towards the viaduct, from my understanding. And nobody maintains it. It ain't been cut in 4 years. I know, because I'm in and out there every day.
So you drive about 200 feet or so down?
Yes, sir, I do.
Down the railroad
Yes, sir.
track?
And I mean, I just don't want to be in a pickle and one day pull up there and I got a gate sitting across my driveway and can't get in.
Do we need to clarify something on this before we abandon this?
I'm a little nervous on this, because, I mean, the railroad can kind of do what they want to do.
Yes, sir, they sure can.
They've got,
I wonder if
Very
we ought
strong
to table
background
this
there.
and do some,
That's what
And I mean, as far as
table it.
maintaining, sir, and I'm not trying to be ugly, I maintain it.
no, I appreciate that you.
That's
what
one
you're saying,
reason that y'all didn't want to go and,
Maintenance, but it's about getting to your property. I'm
because
gonna
you told me
entertain a
I drive
motion.
my big truck down there last time, Mr. Burdette did, and he said he didn't know about the road being maintained, and I didn't want to argue with him, but I maintain it, Mr. Burdette.
Very good. Well, I'm gonna entertain a motion to table this to our next meeting. If you'll give me the dates, we have a chance for our attorney to look at it.
look at it a little
See if there's something we
stronger
can do with the railroad, or what can we do to make sure. that
Right,
you
well,
have-
that's the only thing I asked this gentleman, and he never would get back with me.
Well, he didn't have the authority. All he can do is give the research for us, and so he's
He,
doing.
he,
he's
he
doing-
just said that he'd get me a phone number,
Yeah.
and I'd have to talk to the railroad, which I
We'll see.
didn't.
Let me get a motion to delay this, and then we'll come back and look at it for you.
Be to a different date. You want to set a date before we make a motion to postpone?
I was supposed to go to the next meeting. Is that enough time? We need 2 meetings.
I would be 2.
2 meetings? All right, what's the next meeting? All right, 9/6. Do I have a motion to table this item to September 6th?
I make a motion to table this item to September 6th.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, and was that second, Mr. Deloach?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
We'll
We're gonna
get
table
more
this for 30
information on
days.
it, and reach out to me if you don't mind.
We'll do some research on it.
Yes, sir.
Eric's doing what he's
Just wanna
supposed
make
to do.
sure-
He's got the information for us, but we gotta do some research,
Okay, thank you.
see what the railroad might do. All right, we'll move into our new business. So we'll have another public hearing, I guess, when we come back and finish it up. And we're gonna close the public hearing for now, obviously. All right, new business, item number 1, discussion and decision whether or not to recommend to the Georgia Department of Transportation to prepare and execute a change order to modify the intersection of Forest Haven Drive to create a dead end on Forest Haven Drive and eliminate the connection to the Effingham Parkway. So I'll let our staff introduce this again. Just for public, this is not a public hearing. We've heard from our public. We've had a special session on the research we did on the road. So this is gonna be more for us to discuss, and hopefully, I know a lot of the commission has done their research and their study about what they believe is best for our community, so that's what we're gonna be looking at tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I think some people are here tonight that would be more affected by that traffic, if you wouldn't mind them commenting on it.
We can let a couple, but we don't wanna get into a long, we've had public hearings on it.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't think we're gonna gather any more information other than sharing our understanding tonight, but we'll give a few minutes to that. But let's start with, our staff introducing where we're at.
Yes,
and
Mr.
then,
Chairman,
let our
I-
commission from the district speak to it, okay?
within your packets, you should have the pond study. We did have at a previous meeting where we went over the pond study. In addition, they just did a rather kind of simple matrix of pros and cons for each option. The current way that Effingham Parkway is designed was to have it intersect with Forest Haven and Squirrel Run. And so the option that we're proposing, based on the data that was provided thus far, simply because we are within the construction process of this, is whether or not that we recommend to Georgia Department of Transportation, who's managing the construction of Effingham Parkway, to close off the intersection of the Forest Haven Effingham Parkway side and therefore dead end Forest Haven at a hammerhead at the end of the as it reaches towards the last property, or to leave it open and understanding that we will probably have to make some adjustments and some investments in both Hodgeville and Forest Haven for the additional traffic.
Okay. Do you want to speak what your research has shown?
Yeah, as many of you know, I'm opposed to closing this. There's a variety of different reasons. I understand why you wouldn't want the additional traffic, but at the end of the day, this is a county road. Everybody pays for this road. Everybody should be entitled to use this road. If we close this road, it's going to make it a private drive that the county's going to fund, that the only people on Forest Haven will be able to use. There'll be no other reason to use that. And I don't think that's a proper use of constituent funds, taxpayer funds that put into this. I wanted to make sure we're on the right page, so I took it a step further in between this. And I asked Pond, engineering firm, for an expert opinion on this instead of my opinion or anybody else's. And I had a conference call with them, and I spoke with Andrew and Richard, and there was another person online, but it did not give an opinion. And I did not preface this with anything. I didn't want somebody to have some preconceived way that I wanted to vote for or not. So I didn't even tell them what it was about. So could I get some information on this? When I spoke with them, two major statements were made. Andrew said, you need to leave as many routes as possible when in this environment of growth. And then Richard came back with this, and these are engineers, these are experts in the field. The more network, the better. We did not need to close this thing off. We need the most network we can possibly get. Unfortunately, a lot of people that need to be here tonight are the ones that are affected the most in the morning because they're at open house at school. Can't be here because they're going to be, but they'll be the ones on the road in the morning trying to get their kids into school. You know, while people in Forest Haven, a lot of you are retired, it's just the facts. You don't have to encounter the traffic. And there's some concerns, I would think, for safety along Forest Haven. But all the houses, I mean, I've driven there many times, are well off the road. You know, I can't see a reason to close this and take taxpayer money and just close it and make it a private drive. It just, I can't get past that part of it as well.
All right, I'm gonna give you, we are good friends and we both love the Lord, but we're gonna be in opposition tonight.
Can we arm wrestle over it?
No, I'll lose on that one. I'm gonna give another perspective that I'm concerned I want the board to listen to. We're spending $70 million on a parkway that's to move traffic rapidly across the county. We've got roundabouts at every intersection. We've even changed some to put roundabouts at every intersection so traffic keeps moving very rapidly, because that's the key. We got to get people in and out of the county. I think to have an intersection here is a mistake. When you've got a roundabout at 30 being built, you're going to have a roundabout, what's there now, we're just going to tie into it. You have a roundabout at the Parkway East-West Corridor. You're going to have a roundabout at Blue Jay. We're putting roundabouts everywhere to make this traffic move. So to me, first of all, I would say $70 million is a lot to spend to start with the intersections. And I do want to make this point that we have a lot of roads in our county that are called local roads. If you go to the GDOT records, and these local roads sometimes are in subdivisions where we make people develop roads to our standards, and we take over those roads. And we maintain those roads if they have to be maintained with countywide revenues. So it's not often that it's not true that we don't sometimes maintain roads that everybody pays for, but everybody doesn't use. That's going to happen, but we do that all around the county. And I think it's important that to think about this. We're not looking for networking to me in this area. We're looking for moving traffic, and that's why interstates have limited interchanges. Parkways usually have limited interchanges because you're trying to move traffic. You're not trying to slow it down. So those are kind of some general comments. But then I would say putting an intersection here, I do believe is gonna create a safety issue. I do believe it's gonna create some accidents. That's gonna actually slow traffic down on the parkway. You get just one accident occasionally that's trying to turn onto Forest Haven or come out of Forest Haven onto the road, particularly when you get the 4 lanes. You try to think about the McCall 21 now, how much money we've had to spend and how many accidents we've had there. People trying to look at all those points of contacts and get across. Once you have an accident, it backs up. The parkway is designed to move traffic. So I see safety, I see it really slowing down traffic overall. I see people using this, according to the study, it's 1/4 mile less. I think people are gonna jump on it and use it, because people, if they can save 15 seconds, they'll jump on it and they'll use it. And if you put 2,500 cars, is what the pond research showed, on this road a day, divide that by 3, and that's probably a high number per household. That's like an 800 house subdivision. I'm pretty sure this board would not allow an 800 house subdivision to build next to our parkway without having multiple entrances, accesses, and a lot of money spent by them on turn lanes or roundabouts or whatever. I can't imagine us allowing 800 homes being built next to that parkway without some really important ins and outs and so forth, because we know it will create issues, accidents and so forth. The cost of improvement, they're estimating at 1.5 million on the high side. I'm gonna be surprised if it's done for 1.5 million with the cost of what we have right now, looking at what we're doing now. It's a 6-inch base with a 2-inch, with a 22 foot wide road. It probably needs to be widened, probably need an 8-inch base, probably need 2.5, 3 inches asphalt to get something that's gonna handle that kind of traffic volume. So I don't know that we need to spend $1.5 million for something that I think is gonna be difficult for the parkway to operate as it needs to operate. So, and I'll just close with this a little bit. I don't think Forest Haven was ever intended to be a arterial or a collector road. It was intended to be a local road. And we have a lot of local roads in our county. I should have looked at the percentage of that, but it's probably 1/3 of our roads in Effingham County are local roads. That means they service only local property owners and their properties, and we maintain those roads. Collector roads are those roads that collect local roads, and arterial roads are those roads that move people across the county. And I don't think Forest Haven, it would be a mistake for us to make that an arterial road or something that's gonna collect a lot of traffic from other areas. So for all those reasons and probably more, that I think it's a mistake to leave that open. I think we voted to have a limited access road. I know that was already there, that intersection, when we voted to have a limited access on that parkway. But I think if we can limit access, we're gonna be better off, particularly when we know that we're gonna go ahead and we're challenging the DOT to start the design for the 4 lanes so that we can start that construction as soon as the 2 lanes are done. That's gonna be an impossible intersection. It's gonna be difficult with 2 lanes. It's gonna be impossible with 4 lanes. And we've got examples around the county now trying to get across a 4-lane highway from a single-lane road. So I'm hoping the board will not want to keep this open. They would vote to close it tonight, and it's a chance to support our constituents. I'm not doing it just because of the constituents, though, because honestly, if I thought it helped our traffic patterns, it wouldn't affect the parkway, I wouldn't do it. I'm always going to do what I believe is right, as I know Mr. Burdette as well. But it is a chance when it checks all my boxes and I can support the constituents, then I want to encourage the board to consider closing it and let's save the cost.
Some rebuttal to that.
Absolutely.
It's a great point. $70 million of our county funds are being spent on this. I can't see a reason in the world we want to limit our way in and out if we're going to spend $70 million and we've got an opportunity to do something that was already included in the plan. There was a reason why it was included in the plan. Currently, when we've got people on Scuffletown that can't even get out of their driveways to go to work in the morning because we're so congested down there. And this would provide another avenue for people to avoid those intersections and Scuffletown. That's going to help these people be able to get out of their driveways. That is a safety concern. I saw no mention of any accidents from any of the engineering studies that we saw at all. But in fact, accidents could be a major issue on the parkway without enough network access. And our own fire chief has stood up in front of us and said that there could be a problem if he got on the parkway and was coming up toward Goshen, and there was an accident there, he would have to either go all the way back to Highway 30 and come back around to be able to access that accident if there was no access there at Forest Haven. So that could be a major problem as well. Lastly, I'll say, I live in my district and I see it every single day. It's a mess in the morning. Right now, the traffic's not that bad, but this morning it was bad and we don't even have school in yet. We could use extra network in our area. And yeah, we might have to pay to make it a little better. That's what we're supposed to be doing anyway, paying to make it a little better. So we have more access in and out and an all available opportunity. I don't think that many people are going to take it personally, but I got to rely on the engineers. I'm not an expert in this area, and I've consulted with them, and we've heard from two experts, our engineers and our fire chief. And I think it'd be a big mistake to close up this when we're spending that much money on getting people in and out of the county every day.
A little rebuttal to the rebuttal. We are doing a lot of improvements on Hodgesville Road, remind the board of that.
We are.
With roundabouts and turn lanes that I think is going to help the Scuffletown issue. The Highway 30 roundabout that DOT is going to kind of fast track to get that done at Hodgesville. That's going to be huge.
We hope.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to happen. We got a lot of attention now because of the recent project and so forth. So there's going to be more opportunity to get DOT to help us with that. So that's going to really relieve a lot of that. But I caution, we can't have it both ways. If there's not going to be a lot of traffic on it, then why would we want to spend $1.5 million plus? If there's going to be a lot of traffic on it, then that's going to be an issue.
We'd have to spend a good bit of money just to close it. wouldn't
Not
we?
much.
I thought it was 700,000 or
No,
so.
no. You don't need to say that. No, I think there's been estimates of 100 and something thousand if you do some kind of blocked road, or to 200,000-300,000 for a cul-de-sac.
The Hammerhead was
It's a lot cheaper to block it off than it is to build
Yeah.
it out.
They got some here, it's 170 to 321, depends, and I think those are high for, my opinion, for blocking a road off. Because good signage coming down that road, let them know this is a dead end road, it's not a through road. They'll be able, there's a cul-de-sac already down there to the right they can use to turn around, so we don't have to spend a lot of money preparing a turnaround. If we have good, you come into a road that says, this is a dead end road, there's no through, so they're gonna look at the first cul-de-sac to the right, turn around and go back out. So I don't think you need to spend the money at the end of the road, they're saying there, even 170, 321 estimate. Still puts it at, I think it's gonna cost more to pave it than they're saying to reclaim and redo the whole thing. But if it was 1.5, you're still looking at about 1.2 to 3 million additional monies that we could spend on other roads, so.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a comment. I agree with what you've said, and always like to help out the commissioner or agree with the commissioner in that district and respect their wishes. But I think the thing that I have the hardest time with is thinking about if that traffic study is correct and 2,500 people start going through that access, so now we've got 2,500 people a day going through a subdivision. I know we've got a lot of growth going on in the county and there are things happening outside of developments, but it's just hard for me to support a portion of the parkway going through an actual neighborhood. I don't think that's the right decision. And I also agree with you, ever since the parkway thought has come out, it's been to get the trucks from 21 on through the county, keep things moving. And it just concerns me that if we were to keep this open, I definitely don't want to create another Blue Jay and Highway 17 intersection. Parkway, people be going full speed. We can say they'll obey the speed limit, but they most likely will not. So it just seems like there could be some other concerns. Commissioner Burdette, I hear you and I agree with you. We definitely need to do more work with traffic concerns in South Effingham, but it's just hard for me to support keeping this open. I just see more cons than pros, in my opinion.
So should we close Scuffletown as well? Because it's got similar issues, bad road, neighborhood. They're using it every day, and we have no relief there. It's the same situation, and we're,
That's my concern.
it's
How
not
do
on-
we
it's
pick
not on
and
the parkway.
choose
Yeah, we're
when
picking and
people rise
choosing
up and go,
one
hey,
area.
I don't want it riding, I don't want all this traffic through my area?
Scuffletown's a local road. I mean, that's not a subdivision.
Well, and it's not, it's not on the
No,
parkway.
that's not a subdivision.
have you driven
Well-
through there?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't think GDOT took that into consideration when all this was designed?
I think all they did was design with a road that was already there, and they didn't close it off because we didn't ask them to address it. I don't think it was, it was never,
Is this the only road that intersects this parkway? Like, I mean, why is this special compared to any other road? Is there anything else like this? Is this the only road on this parkway that we're concerned about? Is there others that we need to look at?
no, the other roads are collector roads or arterial roads, like Goshen Road. It's a collector road, and it's an arterial road. Artie has been acting that way. It really is the east-west corridor road right now. That's all we've got, is the east-west corridor road. That's why we're spending almost $6 million to beef it up. And we want to drive people to our east-west corridor, which is an arterial road or collector road. Both of those are high-use roads. And so we're improving it. We're doing turn lanes. We're doing roundabouts for that. We're doing that at Blue Jay for the same reason, all the way to it connects with Blanford. So there's no other road, in my opinion, like this, where we just taking a local road and say we're gonna drive 2,500 cars down a local road. That weren't there already. They weren't there already. They're already on Goshen. It's just gonna get worse. They're already on Scuffletown, but it's not on a parkway. And we're fixing to improve that area with the Hodgeville improvements. So that's being addressed. I don't think we need to create a new problem although we're addressing a problem on Hodgeville. So,
What part of it will address Scuffletown?
the roundabouts, keeping the traffic moving,
It won't
the
help
turn
Scuffletown.
lanes.
Only on Hodgeville 30, and that's out of our control.
Well, let's pull that out for a minute and just assume that there's something we need to look at Scuffletown. We can't do the wrong thing here because feel like we gotta do it.
That's your opinion, it's the wrong thing.
Well, I'm saying that, but that's the point you're
That's
raising.
not what the engineers are telling us.
I would dispute that. I think they're telling us to be cautious. They're showing us the cost and they're showing us the
They're
traffic
just
count.
saying, that here's the traffic count, here's development cost to have another way out of the county.
I see both sides. I'm more apt to leave it open personally, but I'll go whichever way the commission votes.
You mentioned there was some folks that you thought came that would want to talk to them. that
Yes,
had
that
not.
has not got to speak on it before.
I agree with you, Gene.
We're gonna let a couple of people speak that, the commission knows about. This is not a public hearing, so is this, somebody want to?
Sir.
All right, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Christopher Dubinsky. I live at 105 Red Maple Lane.
Okay.
I am one of the members of the board of directors for Belmont Glen. And while I am not here in an official capacity, there are many in our subdivision that actually agree with Mr. Burnett's assessment to have this open to the Effingham Parkway. And I completely empathize with having more traffic come down there so it doesn't, turn into a speedway going up and down. I would, you used a 2,500 per day car, that are gonna be increased traffic coming through, correct?
Possibly, it says.
Possibly. I would disagree in that because you're also gonna have two other roundabouts, one at Goshen, one down at Benton, and also 30.
They considered all that. The pond study considered all the other accesses and avenues. They're just saying at those times of day, people are gonna jump on that to save that quarter mile. That's their estimate. From 2,500 to 3,500, I think, in the year 20-something, 39. But I would offer this, as a rebuttal, you're in Belmont Glen. What if a parkway was built behind Belmont Glen? Would you want 2,500 cars coming off of Hodgeville through your subdivision to get to the parkway if we chose to put on the other side of Belmont Glen?
Answer that with a question of, is my roads receiving public funding?
They should be, yeah, because your roads are dedicated to the county when they're,
Exactly. So if I'm going to receive, funds from the county, while I would not be happy about it, if it was going to help people get in and out, especially with the schools. As he said, with the schools coming in, they're expecting an influx of 200 to 300 cars extra per day because of the redistricting. And it kind of blows my mind, I'm a little
Yeah.
bewildered that you guys don't have at least 2 points of egress to get in and out of, for lack of a better term, road or subdivision there, that it would just be coming back out to Hodgeville. I think that would also be a good, safety thing to add in, so long as they can add in some type of monitoring, such as, police coming down there. Some people will speed.
You
through
talking
there.
about Belmont Glen area now?
I'm talking about, down Forest Gate.
There's gonna be,
But yes, I do agree that there is that risk that
Okay.
people will fly through there. Most of those homes do seem to be set back. I don't think that would be the primary way that people would get through there, but I do think it would be another egress point for people that are trying to get to school or
Okay.
get
All right.
around that.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to have a couple more comments, and that's going to be it. 2 minutes, 2 minutes at the max.
Thanks for hearing me. I appreciate it. My name's James Smith. I live on Forest Haven. I've got 4 points that I want to point out, and I want to begin with an appreciation for you, the board, doing the pond study. I appreciate that you took our petition and asked for the study, and I've spent a lot of time reviewing it. So the study has bases the 2,500 on assumptions. If you read through it, and the assumptions say that there are 6,200 possible cars that can go through there, and they use speed limits and the condition of the road to make the assumption of 25. So I know we've been talking 25, maybe less, maybe more, but in my experience, assumptions are never 100% right? So it could be more than 2,500. The second point I want to make is in safety. So the pond report identified that increased traffic flow, if connected, would cause safety concerns at Forest Haven and Hodgeville. So then we would have to beef up those with a right turn lane and a left turn lane off of Hodgeville. And we kind of talked about that. But we also need to realize that in the 2045 study, that will be a complete failure, and you have to add more funds to build a larger intersection.
Right.
Right. We talked about the cost, so I won't go over that again. And then, like I said, the Hodgeville 30 intersection, I don't know if that's the reason why we decided to add Forest Haven to the Parkway, because the original design didn't have it. The study kind of goes down that road that might be an assumption that we decided to connect because of the 30 and Hodgeville connection. And there is a project supposed to let in 2025 that's supposed to correct that.
Right.
So,
That's what I was talking about earlier. Yep.
Yeah, the Hodge-
All right.
thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion from the board? Mr. Lee, you want a couple minutes?
Yes, sir. I don't wanna, think about the safety issue more than anything else, other than what, what people that live on there, that when we bought in there, we bought a one-way in, one-way out. Y'all talking about all the safety issues, well, how many more chances of having a wreck at the end of Forest Haven and the Parkway are you gonna
And I
have?
made that point tonight already.
All right, so, you got that, but, yeah, but we've been highlighting the negatives and hadn't heard anything from our side of what we look at. I know it's a county road, I know everybody pays taxes, I've paid school taxes all my life, and I don't have a child in school.
And I highlighted that earlier, that we pay for other subdivision roads like Belmont Glen that everybody pays for. So
But
those have all been
same
brought
way
up.
at Hodgeville, you're gonna have to do something more than just put a turn lane there, because you've got the problem there at McCall and.
Yes, sir. And remember, I highlighted that too. There's going to be additional costs for that. I recognize that. And
But are you gonna put a stop sign there for a three-way stop coming out of?
I don't know. It's going to, I know we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on Colic Helmy and where it hits Hodgeville and at Hodgeville and Goshen. So I know it's going to cost a lot of money to beef up that intersection. The board's aware of that.
Are we going, if this is gonna be like a subdivision now, all your new subdivisions got sidewalks and jogging trails and on and on?
Well,
Are
that's
we
not
gonna
on,
put
that's not on the board for
sidewalks in?
discussion tonight.
Okay, so that's, we just, this is what we've been after for 4 years. We could have eliminated it a long time ago if we'd have left it off the drawings when we first talked about it. You and I talked about that 3 years ago.
Mhm.
But that was done away with, so this is why we're here tonight.
Yeah, if we'd have messed with the drawings 3 years ago, as I told you then, we wouldn't have a parkway today.
Yeah. But, and as Mr. Burdette says, you know, that these guys came in and said, oh, you know, it's gonna be better for having access to the parkway all up and down. Talk to the local police, see what they say about it. I've got a letter in my file right here, Mr. McDuffie said that no, he didn't want any more.
And we've all had a copy of that letter too. So I'm saying,
Dude, it's
I'm not
because
trying
of
to,
Scuffletown, is why he says
yeah,
that.
and I'm not trying to cut people off from speaking, but these are all things that we're aware of, and we had public hearings for that. So unless we have something new to offer.
All right, well, let's have the vote tonight and see where we go to. from
Okay.
there.
One more comment, then we're gonna hear from the board only.
I feel like I've been held hostage for 4 years. I moved from Illinois in 2014, and I was showing them the drawings, and they were not in our neighborhood. They were at the end of the neighborhood. Then a chosen few got lawyers, and it got moved to the middle of our neighborhood. We moved here to watch our grandchildren be raised. They come out from Chatham County. It's heaven to them at our house. They play with our neighbors, they cross the street, the other grandparents.
I get it.
their
You want the road closed or opened?
I have Googled and I've looked, and this is why I came to Effingham County. The pace is a little slower, air is a little sweeter, community a little bit more like home. Top choice for residential environment and quality of life, top consideration when planning growth. And then, if you look at your commissioner's statement, it's to ensure citizens a safe and healthy environment. And then, if you go to the property owner rights, I paid a little more to live on a dead-end street to retire on it. My husband and I got married at 16 and 18, we worked our butts to the bone,
Okay.
42 years. And you're gonna decrease my property value by 20%, that's just the minimum. Then they look at, and that's.
Ma'am,
in
this
Effingham
isn't a
County
public
property.
hearing. I just didn't want to, we've heard,
This is the reason I'm telling you why I don't
Yeah.
want the parkway, because you will decrease the value of my property.
okay.
You will take the quality
you
of
don't
life
want the
away by
park-
adding more pollen, dust, emissions.
Ma'am,
causes
you don't want the parkway or you don't want the road closed?
crime and litter.
Ma'am,
One last one.
all right, I'm gonna stop you if you don't talk to me.
Traffic and congestion.
Are you wanting
And
the,
you're changing the integrity of our neighborhood.
are you wanting the parkway closed or you
I
want,
want the parkway as it was when I purchased my home, and it was a dead end. And it was agreed that when the parkway got put in, we've come to every meeting.
so you think Forest Haven should be
If the
closed off?
majority of the residents wanted to keep it dead end, and we all did, and we went to the fire.
I got you. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
We did everything that the commissioners asked, and then all of a sudden, we get new commissioners with new ideas, and they're telling us that they're gonna change the integrity of our neighborhood. I won't live long enough to find another neighborhood like Forest Haven, and half of us won't.
Gotcha.
But I do appreciate you listening, and,
But you'd like,
like I said, I think all of us.
you'd like Forest Haven to be closed off in the
I want
parkway?
it to stay dead end. I
Okay.
do not wanna be connected at all to
Okay.
that parkway.
Wish I got a
And
quick
the
question. Was,
People that
All
live
right.
back
Thank you
there,
so much for your
there's
comment.
school kids, there's not that many.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna have discussion from the board, and I'm gonna call for a motion.
was it originally designed with it closed and then it was added? I thought I heard the gentleman say that originally it was not
Oh,
part of the,
it was
on the-
originally on there.
the design.
Well, Squirrel Run could never have been closed off. Forest Haven could have been, I don't know, but Squirrel Run could never have been, because they have to have access to
Would
get,
have no way
No,
out.
I'm asking, was Forest Haven always part of the plan or was it added? I'm asking
It was
the
added.
commission.
It was added when?
At what point was it, was there a redesign? I mean, at what point?
I don't know what.
It would have to have been more than 3 years ago, because when I took over the plans, or I took over this position, there was
An intersection?
it did have an intersection, so
but it's
it
been
had
on
to be.
design for like 6 or 8 years. I mean, it was,
So who
Yeah.
made that
And I'm not
design?
sure when, if that's the case, I'm not sure when it happened, but it was longer than 3 years ago.
That's a good point. Did Georgia Department of Transportation design this to include Forest Haven?
And we were told it could be taken
The,
off.
well,
Is that true?
did they design this to include Forest Haven?
Yes.
Yeah, they were, well,
So
I don't think that's
it's
a
a little
point.
it's a
Did it
little
because they
difficult.
thought it was necessary. They're just trying to give access.
do you think
to
they
those
just
two-
forgot about it and?
No, I think they
Whatever.
were trying to give access probably to those Forest Haven and to Squirrel Run.
Exactly.
They would say not
And
necessarily.
that's another
clear.
great point that we're not looking at, is people in Squirrel Run are gonna have to go a mile out of their way to go to school now.
I don't want them crossing that road. I'd rather, I still make it a right turn only, because I think
And-
they're going across that parkway.
And the only point I want to make is that it was a little bit of a tricky situation because that we were responsible for administering the design of the pre-engineering design of the contract. However, the contract had to be built to GDOT standards. And so who made this decision? My guess is it was probably some sort of decision at the GDOT level rather than our level. If it was in fact changed, I don't know that. But all I know is that it was made more than 3 years ago.
And Tim,
I had that answer. If it was originally designed without it, then I could possibly see it your way. I currently, if it's designed in, I think it should stay. That's where I'm at.
because I think the
That's an answer I
DOT
like.
in their design, because we asked them that question about, access roads, they didn't have a problem. They usually don't want too many access roads.
Right.
So they didn't have a problem with it, but they weren't, in my opinion, saying in the design, we want it there.
Somebody warned it, there was a reason for it
There's a reason
designed
for
in.
it.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
And it
If
was
there-
Georgia
why was
Department of
it added?
Transportation that done it, and they're funding most of
That
this.
simple.
How much trouble would it be to get the original design?
I think we should end this tonight one way or another.
Your preliminary
Let's-
drawings 5, 6 years ago showed flyovers and 4 lanes and all that stuff. And so then when it got cut down, it was a county road
Yeah.
coming through,
Okay.
attached to a county road.
Okay,
It originally did not intersect
all right,
neighborhood. It was originally before a lawsuit.
okay.
It was gonna go to the east of us and not hit Forest Haven or Squirrel Run.
So why do you think they added that?
That would have been, I'm just guessing.
I
probably
do remember
6 or
there
7
was an issue with the lawsuit and there was some movement,
They moved the road.
but I don't know if whatever happened. or
Well,
how
we're
it
we're not gonna be able to answer that question tonight, so if you wanna make a motion to make a decision tonight, we can do that, or if you wanna see if we can do some research on that, if you think it'll impact your
I'd
decision.
like to make a motion. I mean, my mind's made up on it.
All right, we'll entertain a
Done
motion.
the research. I make a motion to deny.
You're asking for number 3,
The-
take no action, keep the intersection design as is.
Alternative number 3.
All right, we have a motion for alternative number 3, which is to take no action and keep the intersection designed as is. Motion by Mr. Burdette. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We got a second by Mr. Floyd. All right, so we'll take a vote since we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
Yay.
No. All right, I'm gonna do a roll call, make sure I get it right. Mr. Floyd,
I've supported Mr. Burdett's position. Yes.
Mr. Burdette,
I support alternative 3.
Mr. Deloach,
I'll vote against.
Mr. Loper,
Close it.
and Mr. Kiefer.
Aye.
Voting for it. Alternative 3. Okay. All right, so that is the vote, it's 3-2. The design will stay as is and the road will stay open. And that will conclude item number 1. Sorry for those who didn't get that item's done. All right, we're gonna go to item number 2 under new business. First public hearing for the consideration of abandonment of apportionment of Kessler Loop. Don't disrupt the meeting, bud, okay?
We've been kicking this can down the road for 5 damn years and listening to all the crap,
Out of order.
counting on that thing.
Taking away our dreams of raising our family.
I'm sorry, the commission has voted.
Common sense, you don't put 2,500 cars a day on that, a winding road.
We're gonna take a 5-minute recess and we'll come back. Take a 5-minute recess.
Everybody would tell you, and whether you can reimburse us for the damage to our properties.
You already trashed our road.
You all owe us money if you're gonna make that a thorough.
And you
because I
should go
brought
by
up
the
that-
original plans and then change it and find out who changed these things. Because it wouldn't even be going through our subdivision.
Oh, well. Some you win, some you lose.
Have y'all noticed that item 1,
Do what now?
it seems like the last 4 meetings, item 1 on new business takes at least an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's never item 7 or 8, it's number 1 out the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. They always put that first. You can't
We have
satisfy
talked about
people.
that item.
You're right.
Uh-huh.
Rogers District. I'm trying.
Over the weekend.
You know what I mean?
If I lived in
It's
there, I
hard
wouldn't
for
want it.
me to think about that many cars. Sheriff's like, don't do it.
Was there ever a design that had a?
Don't do what?
He said, if y'all let the
I
traffic,
was under the other impression. I thought he wanted through.
one of the first meetings, sheriff showed up and was like, don't open that up.
No, leave it like it is.
The fact is, we,
Anyway. And
I
and all
just
the people
texted him.
in there didn't want it.
You got some popcorn in your pocket?
Yeah. Well, I just
Since he's not a voting member, can he?
trying to find out.
Well, he can
I-
suggest it. He can suggest it to the board.
If you're looking for an agenda, she's printing them out.
He can't,
couldn't
I mean,
vote.
he can't, say, hey, we're going to
he can't
push
vote.
this to the next meeting, but he can suggest it to the board, and then one of us will
Although-
make a motion.
That's his job to, to tell us what he thinks.
Hearing that it was at a different
But he does not have a
location,
vote, no, unless it's a tie.
way back when, maybe when it was the Burns Parkway, that seems to make more sense.
That's Association of County Commissioners of Georgia.
Yeah.
no, it has nothing to do with what you're thinking.
Some of us is going to a ACCG meeting, and we got to select somebody
I
to,
represent the 12th district on that board. Yeah.
so we'll let him vote.
Oh, no, I know, that's what I'm
We know
saying.
he's
All I
going.
can guarantee
I
is
might
3
not
years.
go.
I don't know
I did
anything
it
else.
for years, but I don't know.
Chatham County, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
See, one reason why I wanted to go is most of the time they have the legislative
Yeah,
one.
we
What came out of legislation session.
If you
most
just
time
give
they
us a
either have
couple
it in
minutes, we'll put
Athens
them
or
up on the
Atlanta,
podium.
but
Sorry,
this year they're having
we
it in Jekyll,
didn't have
so
enough.
it wasn't that far away, so it'd be easy to go
All
to.
righty. We're going to continue with our new business. Sorry for the little break. Sometimes commissioners make tough decisions, but they make decisions based on what they believe to be true in their heart and with their research. And that's all we can ask of them. So I appreciate everyone's vote tonight. All right. If you would keep the comments quiet for a minute, we'll go to business item number 2. First public hearing for consideration of abandonment of a portion of Kessler Loop.
Mr. Chairman.
6 o'clock.
It's 6 o'clock.
We need to go ahead and do our public hearings.
He didn't show up.
Okay. Who's here for any new business tonight? Anybody here for any of the new business items? You were at it. I'm not gonna help you out, but you were at it. All right. Since we don't have any new business that we need to address right now, we'll go ahead and do our planning board for all those folks who've been here for our planning board tonight. So we're down to number 15 on our item of our agenda, if you're following it, which is our planning board items. And the first item on planning board is the planning board recommends approving an application by Gloria Shepherd to rezone 2 out of 46.99 acres located at 2306 Sand Hill Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site, map number 300, parcel number 6 in the 1st District.
That would be me.
Let's start with our staff.
We can't hardly hear you.
Get it turned up?
Yes, so this larger parcel is 46.9 acres, and Ms. Shepherd wants to subdivide it into 3 tracts. I did notice that the Q Public is not matching her plat, and I've discovered the problem. We'll fix that once this is approved. But in any case, the larger tract, the proposal is to split it into 3 parcels. One of them is 2 acres, and that needs to be rezoned to AR2 to conform with the zoning regulations. Staff's recommending approval.
All right, we have a public hearing. Anyone here tonight speaking in favor of this application? You don't have to speak if you don't want to.
Just me.
Anyone speaking in opposition? Can everybody hear me okay out there tonight? They got the mic turned up good enough? Okay, all right. Seeing no one speaking against, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the request, alternative 1.
Second.
All right, I've lost my, there it is. Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the application. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We'll do the second reading. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Gloria Shepherd to rezone 2 acres out of 46.99 acres located at 2306 Sand Hill Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site, map number 300, parcel number 6 in the first district.
Make a motion, we approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Next, item number 3 is the planning board recommends approving an application by Etheridge Dasher to rezone 2 acres located at 4224 Highway 17 South from AR1 to AR2 to allow for future recombination with an adjacent map number 326, parcel number 15 in the first district.
So this parcel, as you see here, it's the lighter green AR1, and it is to be recombined with the larger parcel, which is the darker green, that's AR2. So he's simply asking for us to rezone it so that he can combine the parcels.
Okay, open a public hearing. Anyone speaking in favor or against this application? Rezoning from AR1 to AR2. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the rezoning, alternative one.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper to approve this rezoning, which is alternative number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 4, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Etheridge Dasher to rezone 2 acres located at 4224 Highway 17 South from AR1 to AR2 to allow for future recombination with an adjacent parcel, map number 326, parcel number 15 in the first district. Second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. Deloach, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 5, the planning board recommends approving an application by TPHC Incorporated as agent for Nancy Gordon to rezone 7.88 acres located at 295 North Magnolia Drive from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site, map number 328, parcel number 2 in the first district.
So this entire parcel is actually the outlined version north of the road, but also this section south of the road, and that's she wishes to rezone all of it for future subdivision, but the main purpose is to rezone this portion on the south side of the road. So the proposal is to rezone all 7.8 acres, which will allow her to separate this as a home site, and that's about 2 acres. So staff's recommending approval.
And you're recommending it with these 2 conditions here? Am I looking at the right one?
Yes.
Lot
those are
shall meet
the-
the requirements of AR2 rezoning district and minor subdivision plat must be approved.
Yes, we have the proposed plat, and it's just a matter of approving the rezoning for the entire parcel so that she can split off the 2 acres now, and there are plans to split up the northern part as well.
All right, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone speaking for or against?
I'm for.
I don't see anyone speaking against, so I'm going to close the public hearing
Okay.
and then entertain a motion from the board.
Make a motion, we approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion for alternative 1 is by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by TPHC Incorporated as agent for Nancy Gordon to rezone 7.88 acres located at 295 North Magnolia Drive from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site, map number 328, parcel number 2 in the first district.
Make a motion, we approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously.
What is that, what is my address then? The post office wanted a 911 address.
295 North Magnolia Drive?
I already have a house there. 95.
So you need
And-
another address.
Yeah.
I guess you'll go through zoning to get that for
We'll
you.
help you with that.
She'll help you with that.
No.
No, not now. Yeah.
We'll talk to you tomorrow if you. Well, when it's convenient for you.
Whenever it's convenient, come by and they'll get you an address for the, thank you. Item number 7, the planning board recommends approving an application by Lynn Jean Grimes to rezone 2.33 acres out of 9.43 acres located at 1411 Goshen Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the separation of a home site, map number 451, parcel number 24 in the second district.
This parcel is zoned AR1, and Ms. Grimes wishes to separate this parcel number 2, and it is 2.3 acres, so it must be rezoned to AR2, where staff's recommending alternative 1.
All righty, open a public hearing. Is anyone speaking for or against this rezoning tonight?
I'm for it.
Okay. I don't see anyone speaking against it, so I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing and see if we get a motion from the board.
Make a motion that we approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We'll do the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Lynn Jean Grimes to rezone 2.33 acres out of 9.43 acres located at 1411 Goshen Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the separation of a home site, map number 451, parcel number 24 in the second district. Motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Okay. Item number 9, under public hearings. The planning board recommends approving an application by Bobby Lee Dotson and Ambria Dotson as agents for Robbie Lee and Helen Roper to rezone 1.83 acres out of 20.18 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site located at 896 Egypt Ardmore Road. This is map number 245, parcel number 13 in the 3rd district.
The proposal here is to separate out a 1.83 parcel per this proposed plat here, and it's the same as all the previous ones. The parcel is too small for the AR1 zoning district, so it needs to be rezoned to AR2. Staff's recommending alternative 1.
Okay, we'll open a public hearing, see if there's anyone speaking for or against this rezoning. Seeing no one speaking, we'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Bobby Lee Dotson and Ambria Dotson as agents for Robbie Lee and Helen Roper to rezone 1.83 acres out of 20.18 acres located at 896 Egypt Ardmore Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site, map number 245, parcel number 13 in the 3rd district.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach. Was that Mr. Kiefer or Loper?
Mr.
Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 11, under public hearings, the planning board recommends approving an application by Franklin and Galen Smith to rezone 12.01 acres out of located at 200 Clio Shawnee Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision, map number 313, parcel number 30 in the 3rd district.
This 12 acres is proposed to be split into 2 3-acre parcels and a 6-acre parcel, and the applicant wishes to rezone the entire parcel to AR2. Staff recommends alternative 1.
All right, open public hearing. Anyone speaking for or against this rezoning? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 12, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Franklin and Galen Smith to rezone 12.01 acres located at 200 Clio Shawnee Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision, map number 313, parcel number 30 in the 3rd district.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 13, in the public hearings, the planning board recommends approving an application by Beverly Sapp to rezone 8.54 acres located at 121 Needle Point Drive from AR2 to AR1 to allow for a second dwelling for an immediate family member. Map number 369C, parcel number 115 in the 4th District.
Okay, so this is the trick one. It's going from AR2 to AR1, but this is an existing subdivision, and if we were to subdivide it, we would be re-subdividing within a subdivision, and the original proposal was to subdivide a very small parcel, maybe 1 acre, and so we encouraged the applicant to look at maybe just rezoning to AR1, which would allow that second home, would not change the sort of integrity of the neighborhood, and would not lead, hopefully, to any concern among neighbors that the parcels were being split up and subdivided. So this seemed to be the easier solution, and we're recommending alternative one.
Okay. Open a public hearing. Anyone speaking in favor or against this rezoning from AR2 to AR1? I assume you're for it.
Well, yeah, it's mine.
Okay. All right. See no one speaking against it, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimous. Second reading, consideration to approve a second reading of an application by Beverly Sapp to rezone 8.54 acres located at 121 Needle Point Drive from AR2 to AR1 to allow for a second dwelling for an immediate family member, map number 369C, parcel number 115, the 4th District.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 15, in the,
Chairman, this is the one I need to get a step down on.
all right, if you would, clerk would note that Mr. Floyd is stepping down, recusing himself from item number 15. The planning board recommends denying an application by David D. Smith as agent for Effingham County Industrial Development Authority to rezone 6.96 acres located at Old River Road from B2 to B3 to allow for the development of a truck stop with fueling stations and convenience stores, map number 320, parcel number 46 in the 1st District.
So as you stated, the parcel is currently zone B2. It was rezoned to B2 back in 2007. So it technically is something that could be developed as a gas station. We did ask the applicant to consider rezoning to B3 because the site plan showed a possible 4th diesel pump, and that creates a trigger at the regional level for a regional review. So we went ahead and did the regional review, and out of an abundance of caution, just asked that they rezone to B3 so that if this became slightly larger scale, it was covered within the zoning requirements. But it is, as B2, appropriate for a gas station. In fact, just north on Old River Road, there is a B2 gas station. However, the regional review was conducted. The report did not come back in time for the planning board because the planner at Regional Commission was out sick. I was out sick. It was one of those things where paperwork fell through the gaps. We do have all of the paperwork now, so we can proceed with the vote. There's no issue there. But staff are recommending approval of this. We have met with the applicant to discuss the plan. The county engineer has talked to them about ingress and egress. We are going to require a transportation and impact assessment. That's usually something that comes to us during the site development review process, not at rezoning. So it's not at all unusual that we don't have that right now. The traffic study will look at whether, turn lanes are required, and it will look at all of that under the county engineers.
So if they take one diesel pump off of this plan, then they can proceed forward.
Right, and in fact, the plan itself shows 3 solid, and the 4th was kind of penciled in, and I said, well, let's just go ahead, and in case you ever do want to expand, let's get the regional review out of the way. It won't slow anyone down. It's just let's just do that to check that box. So there are representatives here tonight that can tell us what their solid plans are, if they have solidified them. But as far as we know, it's for sure 3 diesel pumps, possibly a 4th. B2 would certainly accommodate the 3 diesel pumps. B3 is just a better way to kind of handle more intensive uses. But at this time, as B2, it really probably could be developed as a gas station. We would, keep a close eye on the
Yeah,
impact
a
of
gas station is a
development.
permitted use under
Yeah,
two,
absolutely.
as long as you only have 3 diesel tanks. Question though, and I looked at this yesterday and this morning, I just didn't catch it. It says truck stop as well. Is this an overnight truck stop?
That was staff overreach there. It's really been presented as a gas station. I think, you have a way of, the applicants are here, they have particular terms they use. It's not going to be overnight truck stop. So that was something that we maybe just let it run on from a
Okay,
previous
all right.
application.
We'll open the public hearing. We'll hear from the applicant first. Go ahead.
Hey, David Smith. Yeah, so as far as the traffic study goes, we already have that scheduled. Kind of getting a ring. So we do have the TIA scheduled. We don't have it in hand right now, but we will by the time we get sketch plan review when we're actually looking at what does access look like. As far as the truck stop, the function of the site doesn't really fit that. There's no overnight parking. There's no showering facilities or anything like that. There's parking there, but it's solely for the purpose of truckers to go in and get a snack and get out.
Right, okay. Yeah, my understanding was I was looking through this, you could really do what you want to do now with the B2. The B3 is because the staff is recommending that, because we're trying to move everything from the service station type businesses, particularly the 4 tanks, we're trying to move them to B3 because we're trying to revamp our total zoning. Yeah,
That's correct.
okay. All right, anyone else speaking for or against the rezoning tonight?
My name is Richard Sapp. I live at 1483 Old River Road, directly affected by this business. So my question, I'd have a few questions. Number one, there was a similar facility across the street that was denied sometime last year, or in the last however many months. So
You want us
what
to
makes
address
this
that?
better?
Yeah, let me address that for you real quick. And staff can correct me if I'm wrong, across the street, it was being zoned to a B property.
Right.
This is already B2.
That's right.
So make sure everyone understands, this applicant could go tomorrow without even coming for B3 and build
That's
this
right.
service station, and
I understand
we
that.
couldn't stop
I
him.
completely understand that.
So that's
Never
the-
got any notice it was zoned to B2. Promise you I'd have been here.
Yeah,
But whatever, that's past.
So that's the first,
so
but
it's
the
a
other
very,
side, the reason they didn't look at it, because it wasn't next to industrial, it was across street, and there's a neighborhood right behind it. And what we said no to was not a gas station, I don't think so much, it was a truck stop.
right.
Because of the noise of and that's why I was asking this
when-
gentleman here, we're
it's-
gonna have trucks with engines running all night long?
It's funny that when we came to the planning board, it was a truck stop with 6 fueling pumps and 10 spots, and there was some speculation by they didn't have a plan ready yet. So it just kind of seems funny that now all of a sudden it's changing a convenience store when there was people opposed to it at the planning board.
I got you.
So, and the reason I'm concerned is because I was here when the IDA first initially built that mess down there. And they have not followed the zoning requirements that were put on them then. So what makes me think that they're gonna do it now? Okay?
Familiar with
Well,
not
they were
following
zoned, we spent lots of money. I heard these people talking about lawyers. You could spend buckets and buckets of money.
Yeah.
And then somebody like an authority can go do what they want. I think all of you know what I mean when I say an authority.
Yeah.
My residents there, and I feel like I need some kind of guarantee that they're not gonna be sleeping there all night in a truck with it running, 10 spots, and this kind of thing.
Okay, good question.
You know, I mean,
If we approve B3 and don't leave it B2, could they come in and do a truck stop and have overnight stay later on?
I
without-
think when we come through for the sketch plan process, is that's when we can refine our expectations of the project. But also, it isn't possibly a matter of space. I mean, almost 7 acres is a lot of acreage, but they do have to include septic.
But my question is, can we restrict it and not have a truck stop if it's zone B3?
Overnight.
overnight.
Could we restrict?
Well, I don't think I don't think our ordinances differentiate between a B2 and B3 to determine whether or not one is a place where trucks can park overnight or not, correct?
Right.
Yeah, and so I think that stipulation would probably have to be put on the, or that condition would probably have to put on the rezoning itself.
Yeah, what I'm gonna try to do is if I can help this constituent with his concern, I want to, but if I can't, my hands are tied. So you tell me a B2, if they decided to do a truck stop, they could still do a truck stop under the current zoning.
Yes, and so understanding how our zoning works, and this is one of the things we're trying to clean up in the revamp of the code. It doesn't specify. It specifies in B1 that gas stations are a prohibited use.
Right.
Right. So then it does not specify that in B2 or B3. Nor does it say it's conditional use, so they're more intensive uses. So what the county has been using for approving gas stations over the last years has been that they are approved in B2 and B3. There's nothing in there that specifically disallows truck stops or overnight parking, let's say in trucks, at a gas station in either. I think it's something that would have to be put in there as a condition. When we redo the code, I would specify the difference because it's a huge difference.
Can we put
and
that
one
condition
should be, and that
tonight?
should be conditional.
What I'm asking then.
Yeah, but right now there's nothing. If it's B2 or B3, technically there's nothing
Let me
not
recap.
permitting them to have a truck.
Make sure I understand. So B2 right now, without any conditions, this applicant could, we could deny the B3, but they could still go back and build this gas station. And if they wanted to add a truck stop, because that's the zoning they have, they could do a truck stop unless there's a condition on it.
Right, unless you put a condition to prevent it.
Can we put a condition on it tonight?
Sure.
All right. Then I would encourage the board to look at this because I hear the applicant saying he's not going to have a truck stop. Let's try to help this gentleman out by putting the condition.
And just so we all understand it, I'm not just trying to get rid of the parkers. I understand business.
Yep.
But this morning, there was 5 trucks on the side of the road where there's no parking signs.
think we have to
And
define
some mornings,
those.
they're right in front of our homes on the side of the road where there's no parking.
What's the difference between
And
a
there's 2.5
truck
million
stop-
square feet of warehouse there. What do you think's gonna be there? A bunch of trucks.
We got you. We got you. We got you. All right, let me listen to the question here.
What's the difference between a truck stop that allows trucks to come in and fuel, take a break, go to the bathroom, and leave, and somebody coming in at night, taking a break, sleeping, and then leaving? I mean, I don't see how we're differentiating between truck stops. I mean, maybe.
Because they let the trucks
You
run
spend the
all
night
night.
there,
It would-
and let that truck run all
It
night.
needs to be clarified in the codes with
Yeah, I don't think we have that
of what a truck
definition.
stop is.
Do we
you
even
know.
have that definition now?
See it, I've been looking.
And also, I know it's a hindrance, but you gotta consider if a truck comes in and they're doing a move for safety, if he's tired, if he's out of hours or whatever, and he has to lay down and sleep, he can't move unless he's ordered off the property.
And it's his responsibility to
That's
get to a
hard.
safe place first.
Well, I
before
think
that
It is, and I'm in the business, I know how that works.
I am
We're-
too.
I
I
think
know what it's
But you can
about.
also be in congestion and not plan on that, or be behind a wreck, and then all of a sudden be out of hours and be in a location that's considered a safe haven.
But I think where we're at is that under B2, they technically could do a truck stop if they wanted to with this gas station. So if the applicant was willing to, let's put the condition that it won't be technically a truck stop, it's just a gas station with a place where they can park, go get a sandwich and get their fuel or whatever, then it meets what we're trying to do.
I understand that. I think we're overstepping our boundaries when we put that kind of condition in on a B2 that already allows something. Now we're gonna restrict the B2.
Well, they just
It
said
doesn't
legally.
technically say that it's allowed in our ordinance now.
Right, so we're gonna not allow it? I mean, is that?
We can. I mean, we
do that?
technically don't
That's why I was asking.
allow it
if we-
now, so if we want to put a condition on there, we can put a condition on it.
So even though it's normal,
Lee, do you
normal
have any problem
B2
with the conversation
operation,
we're having up
we're
here?
gonna now go back on the property owner and say, now you can't do what you were originally zoned to do.
They could
That's
offer
not what we're saying.
Yeah, I just think if you want to,
They allow it now.
B2
Oh,
does.
I
Doesn't
thought B2
specify.
does allow
No,
it.
It
does
doesn't
not.
say overnight. It does not specify overnight truck stop.
Here's what it does, and this is what the confusion, he's trying to clean up with our zoning,
Yeah.
is that B1 says you cannot have a service station, truck stop, whatever. B2 and B3 doesn't prohibit those things. It doesn't list it as a permissible use. So we're not restricting a permissible use, and Lee, correct me if I'm wrong here.
So it's not listed.
It's not listed,
Truck stop is
but-
not listed as a
But they would have a
permissible
good
use in
argument to
B2.
come in and do it as it is now. So I think we're trying to clean up our zoning.
Okay.
That's why we're moving to a B3, but we could put that condition on it. But in the day, when we get through this zoning revamp we're gonna do, it's gonna stay exactly the permissible
Right,
uses.
right, and I get all that. I'm just trying to look at what we have right now. What, does it list that as an acceptable use?
It's not listed in B2
Okay, so
or
it's not
B3.
listed.
It's not
It's,
listed.
it's not specifically listed as a use.
Right.
However, it's not prohibited.
Not prohibited, but not listed. I
And
got
in
you.
in the less intensive uses, it's prohibited. So therefore, we have always interpreted that in this county that's an approved use.
We should probably at some point do a text amendment.
And we're
That's
fixing to,
exactly
we're fi-
right.
we're fixing to clear that up,
Yeah.
future zoning. But Lee, do you see a problem with this, asking to put the condition of not being a truck stop by
Overnight?
definition of overnight truck stop?
I don't see a problem with the condition, but you may want to give the applicant the ability to withdraw their application.
Other than, unless they want to accept the condition.
Right.
Right, okay. All
And
right.
the other thing was, I just feel it's a dangerous piece of road. It was dangerous before they put the IDA entrance there. Now they're talking about a plan that they had the other night, I don't know what this plan looks like, had 2 more entrances onto that road. It's an S curve. It's a dangerous place. Somebody's gonna get hurt.
All right.
And, they got an entrance there, a big grand thing. Why don't they use that and not put more places to enter the highway?
Okay.
But I would ask that there be no overnight truck
All right,
running,
we're gonna talk to the applicant
parking,
now. If you let us
sleeping,
talk to the
whatever.
applicant, we'll see if we
Yeah.
can make that clear, okay?
Thank you.
All right, would that be a condition that would be acceptable, that would not be an overnight truck stop?
Yeah, I'll let the
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. I'm Daniel Ben Israel, the Real Estate Development Manager for the Parker Companies. And I'd like to speak to a few points, and if I may offer what in my experience is a common distinction between conventional truck stops and what we consider our product to be, which is a hybrid convenience store that offers convenience, fuel for POVs, and high-flow diesel fuel for trucks. In this case, similar to other cases in Effingham County, we have a store that's under construction at the intersection of Blue Jay and 17. That store has diesel offerings as well. We do not have truck parking at that location. We have another store that's in permitting right now at 17 and 80. It also has diesel fuel with no truck parking. However, in any instance where we can accommodate short-term truck parking, we will endeavor to do so. And in this case, this hybrid store, it's very different than a larger scale truck stop. It's not a Love's, it's not a Pilot or a Flying J where you have 40 truck spaces. You have showering accommodations and overnight accommodations for the truckers, where they come in and they stay for unlimited periods of time, and they leave their trucks there. In our case, this product and this offering is for short-term accommodations where truckers come in, they fuel, they park, they come in, grab food, a Coca-Cola, and before long they're on their way. That's really what this model is offering. Do we have any objections to posting signage saying that there's no overnight parking? That's something that I would ask you all to allow us to consider. Offhand, I don't see any problem with us restricting overnight parking. The challenge there, as you know, is going to be enforcement, because we're going to have instances where someone's going to try to park there, and we're going to have an employee or someone keep an eye on that. I think we're willing to do that. What we'd like to do, however, is make this a condition of the site plan approval rather than the rezoning. But again, initially, my response to that is that's something that we would certainly be open to. But I would like to, if we can, change the nomenclature from, having this identified as a truck stop, because it's a truly different business model.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chair, if I may answer that question through you. Right now, post-COVID, our hours of operations have been modified due to staffing issues. And so in normal cases, our stores are 24 hours. However, due to those staffing issues and other challenges, we've scaled back our operations, and most often now our stores are opening at, say, 5 o'clock in the morning and closing at around the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock hour in the evening. Okay. Once things normalize, in a year or so, we may return to that 24-hour business model,
Okay.
but that's to be determined.
Appreciate the information.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman? One thing I'll just remind the board, which you probably already know, is that if you put a condition on this, it does have to come back in 2 weeks for the second reading, which Mr. Ben Israel could then confirm whether that's an acceptable condition or not, as a possibility.
Okay. All right. Is anyone else wanting to speak for or against? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to entertain a motion to approve with a condition of not an overnight truck stop, and we can define that. You can look at it, and we can discuss that before we do the second reading.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just, we do this concession, and we're trying to help this gentleman and surrounding people, which I'm all for. Just think the enforcement of it's going to be difficult, especially if you're closed at 11 o'clock at night and you got a truck pulling in at 2 in the morning. He hears a truck going, it's not going to get enforced unless he calls the police and have somebody come out and.
Won't do nothing. I think one of the.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think.
Get a real DOT.
I think we're creating a condition that's going to be very difficult to.
It could be, but I think one of the things that it would do for.
I think the intention's good.
Ms. Burdett, is that it wouldn't be like you just said, 20 or 30 truck stop places.
True. It's not going to be a bunch of people. There's going to be 2 or 3 guys.
It would be very minimal, occasional, and they can police it a little bit and correct it. We're just not allowing it to go to the truck stop status that the one across the street was asking for.
Exactly. And I'm all for that. I'm just saying it just could be, and he knows as well, it's tough to enforce that thing.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the rezoning with the condition that it not be an overnight truck stop?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We'll do the second reading and give you a chance to check on that, and we'll see if we can tweak that to protect that noise, from 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the morning, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so second reading will be later. Number 17, Planning Board recommends denying an application by W.D. Glassvase Import Incorporated as agent for Terry Griner to rezone 7.38 acres located at intersection of Highway 17, Pound Road, and Go-Kart Road from B3 to I-1 to allow for the development of an industrial warehouse distribution center, map number 296, parcel number 46 in the 3rd District.
So this parcel was originally rezoned to B3 for the purpose of building mini storage. It has not been developed as that. As you can see from the aerial photography, it's undeveloped at this time. The proposal now is to place a warehouse on this site with 6 loading bays and 238 parking spaces around the perimeter. We're not entirely sure if that is truck parking, container parking, or what exactly. For rezoning, we don't require a very detailed site plan. This one is pretty detailed and did give us a lot of information, but it is, we're not entirely sure on all of the details. We were concerned about the potentially intensive use with access to truck access to Go-Kart Road. And even though Highway 17 is a designated truck route, there really isn't a lot or any intensive use in the area. Just note that dark blue section up there is actually a cell tower, so that's that zoning. In the general area, we have a few surface mines, but really don't have intensive uses on Highway 17. And with all of those things being considered, staff are recommending against this one. We're recommending alternative 2.
You're recommending against it. Okay. Open a public hearing, see if anyone's speaking for or against this rezoning application.
My name's Josh Jameson, and I am going for against it. But my biggest thing is logistics on it. Are we, because I own property on Pound Road, I own property on 17. They adjoin one another. So I'm on the opposite side of Pound Road though. But we already have tractor trailers come through on the Pound side. So I'm, what's my address? 165, sorry, I'm drawing a blank. 765 Georgia Highway 17 South. So you come in on the north side of Pound and you circle through to the south side where this location is getting designed. The road's already ash, it's already beat up. Where do we gain action? I guess that was the question. Where is the access point for the trucks coming in? Is it gonna be the go-kart side? Is it gonna be the Pound side? Obviously, there's not a whole lot of room on 17. And then even for the, I guess I'll go there, and then I'll ask about the safety part of it for the school buses.
Okay.
I'm not real concerned about all that. I'll make a comment on it if you want me
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and address it a little bit, because I have concern about warehousing in these type of areas.
I
anyway.
think that's all valid questions. Just my personal opinion, I don't support this rezoning request. I think B3 is probably correct, being off a state highway. There's no other intensive uses in this area, no other, I guess what I would consider true industrial zonings in the area. Got a lot of concerns being off, an ash road on the side of it, but just mainly, I don't think any other uses are in this area, so I don't support it.
He had some questions. I don't know if we need to try to answer those. Give me one question, Tom. I'll see
Yeah,
if
so the next one, so right now the school bus, with us being at the intersection of Pound, Halfway, and 17, the school bus now comes off of Halfway, across 17 onto Pound. It then circles Pound,
All right,
and then,
probably we can't answer your question about the safety of school buses, but we can recognize that there would be a real concern about how school buses would come in and access and move around.
yeah, because right now they're cutting through part of this property to get from Pound to go-kart.
We probably couldn't answer for the school system if it was approved, how it would be addressed. But understand your concern, that's important.
Because I got a little one in elementary school.
I got
And
you.
so that's okay.
Did we answer your questions of concerns that we? 'Cause I know
Other
you-
than the not being in favor of it, I mean, not knowing where the access points will come from.
Yep.
It's
Okay.
already a busy intersection, especially when there's a EMS call.
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
very busy
it-
intersection, yeah, very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, everybody's scooting down that road, so.
Is the applicant here tonight that we don't speak for it, and make sure they have a chance to speak? Is the applicant here? Okay, I don't see the applicant here. Anyone else speaking against it tonight? I'm just gonna hear one or two more if you got something different than what's already been spoken. We got safety, we got the road conditions and all that.
I'm Kendall Harville.
Mhm.
What are the average buffers for an industrial property? Like border buffers?
300 foot, isn't it? Pretty
Yeah.
much R1.
For a warehouse, it would be 300 feet.
Yeah.
How wide is this piece of property?
How wide is it?
Uh-huh.
Can you give them that number without me looking at the
No, they didn't ask for variance.
375? The whole property's 375 feet?
Is that 300 feet?
Don't they even put any buffer on it at all? Parking's right on the corner.
Like, not the long ways, the short ways.
It's 375. So
Uh-huh.
how do you get 300-foot buffer?
You don't.
He didn't, I mean, that's another reason why the sketch plan, he didn't request, he simply requested rezoning, and then it provided a sketch plan, and the sketch plan doesn't comply
a good
with
point.
our existing buffer requirements, but didn't request a variance, which is another reason why we're requesting denial.
Gonna be a very skinny warehouse.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything different than we've already heard? because I too am, I'm gonna close the public hearing, then listen to the board. We've already heard from Mr. Loach. You know, you mentioned, Mr. Burdette, before we have industrial property, we need to drive these warehouses to those industrial properties we already have instead of putting a hodgepodge around the, we got something like 6,000 acres of industrial property where warehousing can go.
We've got enough for now, I
Yeah,
think.
so I think putting on this busy intersection, in my opinion, I hope the board will look at that, plus it can't even be built there with the buffers we require. So, any other discussion? Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to deny the request.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to deny the request. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. It is denied, and so we don't have a need for second reading. Go to item number 19.
18? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Public hearing. Planning Board recommends approving an application by James Carlson to rezone 5 of 20 acres located at Highway 119 from AR1 to B2 to allow for commercial development, map number 320, parcel number 74.
This parcel is on Highway 119, and the applicant wishes to split the front 5 acres, the strip all along the frontage of Highway 119, and rezone it to B2. He wishes to put in a building, a pet crematory. He is the owner of the crematory and funeral home just next to it, but obviously going to separate the uses, and staff are recommending approval of the rezoning because it is compatible given the adjacent zoning. I'll just show you the zoning map there. There, you know, it is zone B2 next to it, so it would simply be a matter of continuing the B2 zoning along the frontage of Highway 119 with Mr. Carlson's proposed pet crematory and any associated retail that might go along with that. And he is here tonight to answer any questions.
All right, we'll open a public hearing and see if there's anyone tonight speaking for or against this rezoning application from AR1 to B2. Seeing no one coming forward to speak, I'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Loper to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 21, the planning board recommends approving an application by James Carlson, request a condition.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Second.
I got confused there. Motion, Mr. Deloach, to approve second reading, second by Mr. Loper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And it passes unanimously.
I did the same thing you did and read the second one.
Yeah, it says public hearing. So
And it's got conditional use right up under it, so that's
Yeah.
what threw me off.
What did we just do? We did number 20 or 21?
20.
20.
And then
Now,
21?
21's the conditional use.
There's such a space in between the agenda that it kind of threw me off too.
Yeah. Okay,
We did 19 and 20, so this would be 21, 22.
yeah, I got you. Okay, I'm finally with it now. So I'm number 21. Yeah, I got you. The planning board recommends approving the application by James Carlson's request for a conditional use located at 119 to allow for a crematory in the B2 zone district, zoned AR1, proposed zoning B2, which we just approved in the second reading, map number 320, parcel number 74 in the 3rd district.
Our ordinances require crematories to be approved as a conditional use, so that is what this application is for. You've approved the B2, which could end up just being regular commercial, but if he proceeds with his plans to add a pet crematory, that the conditional use is necessary in order to make that legitimate. And staff are recommending approval. We've looked at all the factors for consideration in the ordinance, and given that the neighboring parcel is a funeral home and crematory, this seems consistent and compatible.
Okay. Open a public hearing. Anyone speaking for or against this conditional use of a crematory? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Kiefer to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Second reading to the conditional use. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by James Carlson. Request a conditional use located at 119 South to allow for a crematory in B2 zoning district, zoned AR1, proposed zoning B2, map number 320, parcel number 74 in the 3rd district.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 23, the planning board recommends approving an application by Joseph Allen Kersey to rezone 3.32 acres located at 119, 131, 145, and 149 Commercial Court from B3 to I1 to allow for the increased use potential for existing commercial structure, map number 465D, parcel number 14, 15, 16, and 17, the 5th district.
So if you remember, last year we rezoned, you approved rezoning of, I'm just getting it here, of the two parcels in red that are just next to the tonight's have all the stars on them. This is the commercial park on Goshen Road Extension, and the two warehouse parcels were rezoned last year to accommodate firearms assembly, and because metal parts assembly is permitted in industrial, not in B3, and that's not what we're talking about tonight, but that's the context. So the owner of these parcels has decided that he would like to expand the options for potential tenants to use these, and B3, while it is expansive in many areas for smaller warehouses like this, it does limit the potential uses. So he's requesting to rezone these existing warehouses to industrial so he can expand his customer base. Now, as you can see there, this is just south of the larger warehouse development, the Old Augusta Commerce Center, which will be very large-scale warehouses, so it's not an incompatible use at all. These are existing warehouses. They're existing uses that may or may not be coming over the line between B3 and industrial.
You're not building more warehouses, you're just
No, this is
allowing a little more intensive use of these
simply-
particular buildings.
Exactly.
Kind
So
of, just
it's
kind
really
of clearing up an old.
It really
I hate
is,
to say
yeah.
use the word grandfather, but
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
it's just recognizing market conditions. These are relatively small buildings, but the uses that are permitted in B3 are actually kind of limited for this scale,
Sure.
so it just expands that
I think
opportunity.
we understand.
Now, there is an associated variance request because of the buffers. It's impossible to come back in and apply buffers. So that variance request for the two last year was approved, and the applicant is asking that you do the same for this, for these for tonight, that basically he'd be allowed to expand the uses of prospective tenants.
All right, so we'll address the rezoning first. Anyone tonight speaking for or against the B3 to I1 that's just been requested? Seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
make a
Could
motion.
I make
to
just a
yeah, sure,
comment?
go ahead.
Just from my observation, it's your district, I want to honor that, but I think this is going to change your traffic from cars to big trucks. If they start doing, I can see these buildings and you convert these over to industrial, they're going to become regular, smaller warehouse versions. I wouldn't see them having 4 buildings to be able to make.
I guess I don't see it that way.
I mean, just my observation, could be wrong, just wanted to point that out, kind of knowing how this industry's going and what people are pushing to do, but that's all I would say, but. I mean, I know we're trying.
I understand. I don't see that changing there. I don't see many of these uses changing. Maybe some specifics within the use, but they're going to be very similar use.
Because I know we got truck traffic restricted coming out from there, so we keep them off of
Correct.
Goshen Road Extension. That's
Correct.
my only
I mean, we
concern.
do have the lumber company going through there
Mhm.
constantly for trucks
Yeah.
as well, so it's not unusual.
True.
But I don't see any. They're very limited. I mean, there's not a lot of. There's nowhere to turn around a truck if they did get it down there. All these buildings are.
Yeah, I would think that would
right
be an
there.
inconvenience for them.
All together.
Yeah, it's. I see what you're saying, but I don't think they can maneuver a truck if they took it down there. Not any large scale
True.
at all. You know, maybe occasionally, no more than probably is going down there now. They probably occasionally have one now, which a truck can certainly service a B3 now.
Any idea on square footage on these buildings?
I don't, but they're relatively
Like 5,000,
small by
10,000, yeah.
industrial standards.
I see. Okay.
Any discussion or a motion?
I appreciate the comments, but I'm gonna make a motion to, approve with planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loper to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 24, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Joseph Allen Kersey to rezone 3.32 acres located at 119, 131, 145, and 149 Commercial Court from B3 to I1 to allow for the increased use potential for existing commercial structures, map number 465D, parcel number 14, 15, 16, and 17, the 5th District.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. I have a variance request. The planning board recommends approving the application by Joseph Allen Kersey for a variance located at 119, 131, 145, 149 Commercial Court with a requirement of a 50-foot buffer between commercial and industrial zone parcels. Zone B3 proposed zoning I1, map number 465D, parcels number 14, 15, 16, and 17 in the 5th District. So you've already been over it.
I will add one more thing, though. Just point out that the industrial to the northeast there, the old Old Augusta Commerce Center, that includes a 150-foot buffer because when it was rezoned to industrial, these were commercial and the requirement was for a 150-foot buffer. So there's a fairly extensive buffer existing between the two separate ownerships. And even though this applicant is asking for an elimination of any consideration of buffers, that apparently was given when this park was developed because there's no commercial buffers existing there. So he's just asking us to continue that.
Okay. Anyone tonight speaking in favor or against this variance of a 50-foot buffer? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Yeah, just to clarify, when this first rezoning came up that we approved, this was anticipated that this was gonna happen. So this is not,
Right.
anything. So I make a motion to approve, with planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Mr. Deloach to approve with planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve a second reading of an application by Joseph Allen Kersey for a variance located at 119, 131, 145, and 149 Commercial Court from the requirements for a 50-foot buffer between commercial and industrial zone parcels. This is Zone B3, proposed I1, map number 465D, parcels 14, 15, 16, and 17, the 5th District. Motion? Second reading?
Yeah, make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. I'm gonna need a restroom break here in a minute.
What we got?
Think we get through this?
We try.
Take a 10.
All right, we'll try to get through these real quick. Item number 27, the planning board recommends approving an application by Oleg Mitnick, whatever, to rezone 5.8 acres located off of Old Commercial Court from B3 to I1 to unify the zoning within two parcels. This is map numbers 466C, parcels 2 and 3 in the 5th District.
We're having little technical difficulties here. I do have slides, but this, again, is something of a cleanup that when these parcels were rezoned for to industrial for junkyard for the car export business, a strip of along the frontage of Highway 21 is retained as B3. And at the time, it didn't make a lot of sense, but that seemed to be what, that's what the applicant wanted. But that's because
Planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loper to approve of planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Oleg Mitnick to rezone 5.8 acres located off of Commerce Court from B3 to I1 to unify the zoning within two parcels, map number 466C, parcel number 2 and 3 in the 5th District.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loper to approve second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 29, the planning board recommends approving an application by Stature Investments as agent for Joy Polk et al. To rezone 130.58 acres located Old Augusta Road from AR1 to I1 to allow for the development of industrial warehouse map number 477, parcel 8 and 9, and map number 477A, parcel number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in the 5th District.
Okay, we've got it back. There's a long story here. So this was originally proposed with just two of the parcels, and it made it to planning board. At that time, the applicant had determined that he could acquire additional parcels, so he withdrew the application and has since resubmitted with these additional parcels that front on Old Augusta Road. At the original application, we did submit this for regional review, and we did receive that report, and we initially made a recommendation against this because the proposal was to use Abercorn Road as an access. With the new configuration, and as you see, it's the red outlines all of the parcels that are part of this rezoning application. With this new configuration, there's direct access to Old Augusta Road, which is a designated truck route, so the project becomes much more compatible with the surrounding area. It doesn't take into account all of the residential parcels that comprise Abercorn Acres, but actually, as a preview, you will be seeing rezoning for several more of these parcels by another applicant in a future meeting. The application originally included this proposed site plan with two buildings. Subsequently, the applicant got wetland specialists in there, and they determined that they would have to reconfigure their layout. This is the layout that was sent in for regional review, that was sent for comment to all surrounding jurisdictions. No comments were received by the Regional Commission for either of the applications. This is a site plan that was submitted on July 13th, so this came in just before the planning board, and I believe, I'm not sure if it was displayed, I wasn't at that planning board meeting, but this is the reconfigured, more buildings but smaller size, that's using up all of the land that's proposed for rezoning to industrial. And given that, I'll show you the zoning map. Given that the surrounding area across Old Augusta Road is zoned industrial, to the south is zoned industrial for the Estes Freight Terminal and all of the industrial parks south of that. To the north, across Abercorn Road, we have a development that was approved for industrial development as well. So it's not completely industrial, but there's a large proportion of the land in this area is zoned for industrial and is taking advantage of Old Augusta Road being a designated truck route. So on that note, staff have reviewed this and are recommending alternative 1 for the rezoning application.
Okay. I do need a quick bathroom break. We can either take one, or I can turn it to the vice chair and I can run. You can continue with the public hearing.
We can give you a
Anybody
moment.
else need a break, or?
We can give you a minute.
Huh?
We can give you time.
I'll think better. So I'm gonna turn it over to our vice chair if you want to continue with the public hearing. Hmm?
Yeah,
I'm good for that.
Before you open the public hearing, just take a few minutes.
Yeah, let's take 5 minutes, and I need a restroom break, and we'll come right back. Or 10 minutes if you need it, okay?
We knocking these on down anyway.
While we're waiting on Roger, probably what we need to do is, if there's nobody here for any new business, we'll do this one first, number 15, and then take a break if you want to, because all the new, because I think there, I see them here. If there's nobody else, we'll take care of the new businesses here. And if y'all need to get a break. I'll send when Roger gets back, we'll finish the planning board hearing.
Yeah.
And then we might address the 1 or 2 items of the new business that people are here for.
If there's some staff that can go, you know.
And then the staff can go if there's, if you don't have anything.
Jump around a little bit,
Yeah, just so we can let
That's fine.
people go with staff so we can get our.
No, I agree.
That's fine.
All right, we're going to open the public hearing now on regarding the approval of the stature investments. We'll listen to the applicant first. Is the applicant here tonight? Would you like to speak?
Yeah, cut it down.
Good evening, Chairman and Board. My name is Chance Rand with Chesterfield LLC. We are the developers of this project, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, sir. We may have some in a minute. Anyone else wanting to speak tonight, speaking for or against this request?
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Feldner, City of Savannah Water Resources Department. Came here this evening to reiterate some of the information that we had placed in a letter we had sent to the county manager's office. Our city manager sent it. I believe it was shared with the Board of Commissioners. As it pertains to the significance and importance of Savannah's property down along the Abercorn Creek area adjacent to this proposed project and some of the other recent rezonings that have occurred in this area of the county. We were clear in our letter of our preferences when it came to land use management and then specifically site stormwater and floodplain management controls associated with any projects that were underway or occurred in the future. And we want to emphasize the importance that we believe this particular location plays not only to City of Savannah, but to our entire region. The Abercorn Creek intake at this location withdraws 40 million gallons a day of surface water that then is taken down to our treatment plant in northern Chatham County before it's then treated for drinking water purposes and industrial uses and redistributed throughout the 3-county area. So the importance of this location relative to all of our well-being, both economically and environmentally, cannot be understated. And we just want you to be cognizant of these issues as you contemplate these petitions that have been before you, both this evening and I'm sure in the future, and the importance of us working together as a region to ensure that this drinking water source is protected and available for all of us in our lives and our economic growth activities that are going on in the region. With that, I appreciate your time and thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm going to make a quick comment because we do have the letter from Savannah about the concerns of the intake, and we had about 45 minutes to an hour the other night, so we've got all those concerns heard. So the concerns we want to hear tonight are addition to what we've already heard, if that's okay. Do you have a comment you want to make? Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for the bathroom break. I needed it. My name is Rita Elliott. I would wager that most Effingham County residents consider it a hardship for variance as an elderly person needing a wheelchair ramp to their porch, not as a developer intentionally designing an oversized development that cannot abide by the few regulatory protections in place for drinking water and wetlands, and asking for a variance to meet those obligations in order to profit at the community's expense. So I would ask you to vote no on the 130-acre proposed development by Abercorn Creek for the following reasons. 1, the development cannot meet the already limited environmental protections in place. 2, the development has great potential to impact directly and indirectly drinking water, as already been stated. Number 3, the development will adversely impact Abercorn Creek, the forest, and the neighboring wetlands, and have impacts not just on the properties around them, but across the country, the county as well. It will not provide minimum separation and screening of different land uses. It will not minimize the effects of industrial land use. It will not act as a filtration zone for stormwater. It will not make the environment more visually attractive, and it will not preserve the tree canopy in the county. Number 4, attempts to mitigate the wetland destruction through a mitigation bank will, at best, create a wetland in some other county or some other state, far removed from where it's really needed in Effingham County. And at worst, attempt to recreate a wetland on property elsewhere already damaged by somebody else's development. Number 5, reason to vote no. The proposed development falls within the area of the archaeological site of the colonial town of Abercorn. Abercorn is the oldest non-Native American site and settlement in Effingham County. It's older than Ebenezer. It was founded in 1733. It also has a fort and camp used by British soldiers during the American Revolution. Excuse me. Construction and development destroys forever not only the artifacts associated with Effingham County's past, but all of the information about the past that this site holds, and all that can be gleaned from scientific archaeological excavation. So this proposed Abercorn Creek project is a prime example of why our county needs, as you know, total revision of the codes. The current codes are based, in the checklist that the Planning Commission uses, is based on antiquated 1900s agrarian Effingham County efforts. For example, this project checked off number 1 on the check sheet. Oh, it's not inconsistent with the master plan. Well, the master plan touts preservation of communities, the environment, and the history, and this does not do that. It checks off number 2. It's not going to overload public facilities such as utilities and schools and roads. Well, the Institute for Transportation Engineers says a 1 million square foot warehouse like this puts 1,740 trucks on the road every day. If 1,740 tractor-trailer trucks don't impact the local roads in the county, I'm not sure what will. And if it's a distribution or fulfillment center, you can quadruple that number of trucks. Also, number 4 on the checklist.
Is there a long document that you'd like to give to us instead
I'd
of
love
reading to it?
Sure, but if you'll read it, will you read it?
How much longer are we going to have on that document?
I've got like this much.
All right, let's finish it.
Okay, but you go down all the checklists that they check off on the planning thing.
yeah.
It's bogus because none of it's true. And then also, I would just like to say that when you do revise the codes, consider there's much more nowadays to it, 21st century issues than just economics. The environment is key. I don't care what, you can have the best develop in the world, if the county doesn't have any clean drinking water, it doesn't matter. So I wish you would vote no on this, but also when you reconsider the coding in the planning and zoning checklist, redo it. It's totally antiquated. It needs to,
Probably need some updates on those, yeah.
Pardon me?
We probably could do some updating on some of the.
Well, I mean, a
questions.
total rethink, because this property is very valuable environmentally. And if the county bought that to preserve our drinking water and use it as a passive recreation area, it'd be a win-win for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I'll make a comment here that with this application, there's an email goes out to the city of Savannah, to the coastal region. DRIs go out. We have received no comments up until a week and a half ago from anyone regarding this piece of property.
Yeah, but
So-
normal people don't know about
Well, I'm just saying, in addressing to, I know Savannah's here tonight too. So our county is going to be willing to work in a cooperative cost-sharing effort in the future, but I don't want to see this board hold up this application, because the request was to table this to another time, when we've had ample opportunity to speak into it, and I'm not confident that this one warehouse, because we'll hear more from our applicant in a minute to see how he's going to address some of the concerns. But the concerns you raised, we'll give him a chance to respond to. Do you have a comment?
I do. You didn't let me say because you were rushing. It was just,
Well,
I'm just a citizen, and I barely know how the county works, and I don't always get notices. And when I do, I took off of work to prepare to look at your document. It had 600 and something pages of attachments. How many people have time to do that when you have
Okay.
kids and family? You're asking us to put out fires because the codes are inadequate, and that's not right.
I'm not sure that's correct, but anyway, go ahead.
My name is Tanya Bonatadabas. I'm the Savannah River Keeper. We work on the Savannah River from North Carolina to Savannah in South Carolina and Georgia. So it's a 10,000 square mile watershed. I appreciate you letting me to come speak. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've been doing this now for 16 years, and fights between counties are not new. I could tell you some stories between Hardyville and even the growth within Bluffton, Allendale. There's a lot of infighting, and that has resulted in many times in emergency situations. So I wanted to give you guys some of my personal experiences. A couple years ago, New Year's Eve, there was a kaolin spill in Burke County. And it started in Jefferson County. We were alerted. I was there before the state. I was there about 14 hours before the state. It was 9 o'clock that night. I was standing on a bridge over the creek looking at it thinking, you know what, I bet nobody's called Burke County. Nobody had called Burke County. They were pulling their drinking water in. By the time they turned that drinking water off, even though it was aluminum sulfate, which is used in wastewater treatment facilities, it's a flocculant and makes stuff fall out, right? It's something that's used. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage was done to their equipment, and they were pulling stuff into their drinking water they shouldn't have been pulling in. That's one example. The ash roads. I just looked at it. January 11th, when I was just the new year of 2018, is when I get a call from the city of Savannah trying to figure out as the roads are melting, because this is right next to, this is an ash road, right? So this is on an ash road. Was that going to impact their drinking water? Nobody from Effingham called the city of Savannah. I was the one that went and tested that water. That I can tell you, and you don't want me to sit here and tell you how many times that's happened, especially if we're talking about two states. When you include something with a drinking water intake that is on the Savannah River, you've got Bluffton, there's just not a lot of conversation that goes on. So I think Savannah dropped the ball a long damn time ago. They did. The problem is that there is no other choice. Savannah can't all of a sudden move that intake into the harbor. The harbor went salty a long time ago. This intake already had to have a big pond built in front of it.
I get it, but your
because of
concern
the
is
harbor
that
deepening.
this development, if it's approved, would contaminate that, and you have some evidence that would
It's
contaminate
even, it's more than just the development of it, is the destruction of the wetlands themselves. You guys have some of the most amazing remaining swamplands that are left, but those are the liver and kidney systems. So not only are you limiting your stormwater protection, you also, if you have any type of spill, you have zero alert. In those instances, an hour would be great for somebody to call the city of Savannah. You don't have that here. This is instant. And if something goes wrong, that's a big problem. Somebody needs to be negotiating with the city of Savannah to buy up that land or whatever needs to happen. But moving forward right now, the risk far outweighs the benefit, because if something does go wrong, it is catastrophic.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any, are you from Effingham County, or
No. Am I from where?
are you from Effingham?
I am not.
Okay. I'm gonna listen to one or two more, but when this
I'll
to
be
our
very
constituents here, because we've heard from Savannah the other night for an hour. Go ahead.
My name is Jennifer Hilburn. I work with 100 Miles. It's a coastal conservation group, and we work a lot in planning and land use. Like everyone else, I would strongly encourage you to deny a development there. Failing that, however, with all the things that you've already heard, I would ask that you pause for a minute. There are some other things that I know the developer at Chesterfield have worked with you before and coming up with some other things. So rather than just increasing the retention ponds, both in location and size, you can do pervious surfaces, you can do other things that would help do this. So before you go ahead and approve it, I think there are some, at the very least, there are some additional things that you guys, I've heard you talk about before,
that's good
that
points.
you could add to this. And this is very critical site. So please consider taking a pause and seeing what you could do to make this the best it could be if you do decide to move forward, which I, again, encourage you to deny.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good points. Okay. Do we have any constituents from Effingham that wanted to speak to this tonight? Want to make sure you have a chance to speak. Okay. You want to address anything that you've heard, and how can you improve? You know, I want to read it again, and we're not fighting with Savannah. I don't know where that came from, but we're not fighting with Savannah. They might be fighting with us, but we're not fighting with them. because we did send out an email on every application that we get. The DRI goes out.
I'm sure it was that important. Savannah could have bought it.
We have never gotten a comment on, even on a DRI report about any of the warehousing along those corridors until a week and a half ago. So and we are on it. We are looking at our staff. I've told them to look and see what kind of cost sharing opportunities we could have in the future. But I'm not going to encourage the board at this point to not hear this applicant and make a decision tonight, because I don't, in my opinion, I want to hear what you're going to offer first.
Yes, sir.
How can you assure us a little bit about your site and what you'd be willing to do, and how do we know that our water won't be contaminated? And then we can go to the table with our friends in Savannah and our staff and look at how we can do some things in the future. Why don't you
Yes,
address
sir.
that?
Thank you very much. I'm going to step back a second so I can see
Sure.
the master plan.
Okay.
So a couple things very quickly from the master plan level that we have done to improve the development. So the first one, as Ms. Teresa mentioned, we put the properties on Old Augusta Road under contract so that we can move the access from Abercorn Road to Old Augusta. The second thing we did is we changed the footprint, the layout of the property from one big building and a smaller building to 4 smaller buildings. Now what that does is it does 2 things. One, it reduces the overall square footage of the development, right? So we're not building as much square footage, as much warehouse as we originally contemplated. And the second thing is we're impacting a lot less wetlands. So with the original layout, with the bigger building, we were impacting close to 7 to 8 acres of wetland. On the new master plan, we're impacting less than a ½ acre of wetlands. So our permit for that through the Army Corps of Engineers would be a nationwide permit. And then the third thing this master plan does, it allows us to create some additional filtration methods, such as ditching. So with the smaller footprint of the buildings and the buffers that we have proposed, it allows some space between the buildings and the buffer to create ditches. Instead of piping the stormwater directly into the ponds, there's an initial filtration through the ditching system. And then a couple things that we can do on the stormwater design, and Michael Roach, who's a representative of Thomas and Hutton, our civil engineers, can go into the details if we need to, but we can create some littoral shelves in our ponds to create some plant growth to further filtrate the water before it is released through our outfall. Now, one thing to point out too is our site, the topography of our site drains towards the middle of the site, so it does not shed to the neighboring properties. So what this allows us to do is it allows us to catch the stormwater from our development in the stormwater ponds, filter it, discharge it at pre-development rates, and discharge it under the minimum water quality standards. And then once it's filtered through the ponds, then it gets filtered again through the wetlands on our property and then filtered out. And our outfall is downstream of the intake. So it's very important to know that our outfall for this development is downstream of that intake. Just to, I guess, kind of address a couple of the issues that I've heard. So I'm going to quote something directly from Savannah's letter. So in the second paragraph, it says, the 1996 amendments to the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act brought about new pollution prevention and protection measures. So we have to, as developers, we have to comply with this Clean Water Act in order for us to obtain land disturbance permits, right? So when we come before you with a land disturbance permit for construction, we have to go through planning and zoning. They review our plans for compliance with that. So, you know, we are, and the Clean Water Act, you know, it doesn't apply just to industrial development. So it also applies to residential development, commercial development. So any type of development has to comply. So this shouldn't be an issue really of rezoning, right? Because that Clean Water Act applies to any type of development. Let's see, I wrote down a couple of things I heard. So we talked about littoral shelves, we talked about the ditching,
Can I
reduce.
ask a question when you're
Yes, sir.
looking at, if there was a spill of some kind from a truck, you know, diesel fuel or oil, what are the provisions to make sure that that does not get into the, you know, the stormwater or the flow to the Ogeechee Run?
So it gets filtered.
The Abercorn Run?
Yes, sir, it gets filtered through the ditching and the stormwater ponds. So no different than any kind of commercial development or residential development that may or may not.
Site to clean up? I mean, is there any kind of cleanup provision if there was a oil spill or anything?
So, to my knowledge, most of the companies who become tenants in the warehouses, they have their own protection plans that they implement, put in place, because they're also responsible for, for their spillage. So as a landlord of the building, I'm not the operator, I'm not the tenant doing the daily operations. So they typically will have their own prevention plans and remediation plans.
Okay, are there any non-permeable sites that you're looking at to help it not run off? I guess, you know, the more asphalt or the more concrete, I guess, spills can run off. Is there non-permeable?
So we don't,
Impermeable.
yeah, the pervious paving concept is not typically implemented in industrial situations because they don't stand up to the, to the trucks and the cars in that type of application. So, but we do have curbing on our truck courts and our parking lots. And so, we contain that in that paved area, and we channel that instead of it just running off.
Okay.
Let's see, what else? So did I miss any of the other comments? Did I not address anything that was?
All right, we're gonna, there may be some discussion from the board and some questions, but we'll close the public hearing, and listen to the board and see what they have comments or questions on, okay? All right. Anything for the board? Is it something different than we've already heard? Because we do have the letter from Savannah.
Yes, actually it is. It's just gonna comment some of the things that he made.
Or if you got something different, we'll take another minute.
Laura Walker, City of Savannah, Environmental Engineer for the Water Resources Division. I love engineers. They are amazing. They make our life more livable, but the one thing that they cannot do is out-engineer Mother Nature. What he has proposed is fabulous. He's got detention ponds. What do you think those detention ponds are after 10, 15, 25 years, after they've sat there and collected everything that's run off from that site? Just the trucks alone, oil, gas, hydrocarbons from the tires, not to mention what could be in the warehouses. What is going to be the oversight? It's a warehouse. Who's there? Who's going to know if there's a spill, right? But in the meantime, those detention ponds have been collecting everything in the world that's on that site. What happens when an event happens that they haven't designed for? The design is there's a certain level of storm that their designs meet. What happens when the storm is greater than that? It'll happen. All of this goes into Abercorn Creek. He says it goes downstream. Abercorn Creek is tidal. Doesn't matter if it's downstream or upstream, it's tidal. This whole area, as you know from the information that we gave you, flows right into it. That leaves no reaction time whatsoever for 400,000 plus customers, your constituents, my constituents, that get their drinking water from Abercorn Creek. No reaction time whatsoever. Please, take a minute. It's not too late. Yes, I've heard it tonight. Savannah dropped the ball. You know what? We are here tonight. We were here last Thursday asking to meet with y'all. to try and protect the drinking water for our constituents. I think instead of finger pointing, that's what our constituents would want us to do, work together to protect their drinking water.
Got it, we got it. And
Thank you.
we're willing to work with Savannah. That's not a question.
So I'd offer one comment to her statement. So it is tidal, but I will remind you too that in 2005 or 6, I believe it was, Chatham County built over 14 million square feet of industrial warehouse space in the Savannah River International Trade Park and the Northport Industrial Park that is adjacent to the river, because it was a direct tidal outfall,
I got you.
didn't have to do some of the standards that we're having to comply with the Clean Water Act.
Yeah, I understand. You know, I think my position, I'm encouraging the board, is we need to take the concerns of the letter from Savannah and all very seriously. I'm not willing to, at this point, since we've sent out information to Savannah, to the whole coastal region, to put their comments on. Getting a week and a half ago is not sufficient for me to encourage this board to hinder this application, at least consider what we're doing tonight. And we may come back with the, conditions or whatever as we look at it further, but I hear you, I hear the city of Savannah, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. We've had opportunity to hear, and unless the board wants more information at this point, we've already started getting, so I think, Tim, we've already had some meeting with Savannah or engineers or something, and we're starting that process, but we just learned about it a week and a half ago. So we're more than willing to share costs, look at it, do things in the future, but that's where we are.
I do have a question. Is this, the reason why the city of Savannah is so concerned is the proximity of this particular one, or is this going to be an ongoing thing as we go along Old Augusta, or is it just this one because of the proximity of the intake there? Is it?
It is this one, it's at our back door. All right, so yeah, it's this one. We want to have the conversation about the whole corridor, but in particular, it is this one, it is critical. And we have options that we would like to talk to that could benefit everyone.
And this but is it due to the proximity of
I
this
think so,
particular parcel?
because, but to
I'm
me,
just curious.
the ones northern of this, to me, are going to be a bigger issue, even though they may be further away, because they're going to flow downstream toward it. One's tidal, but one's going to be a direct flow by it every day. If you don't care for it in the future, we need to look with them on some opportunities in the future to make sure we have right buffers, right protections to protect the intake.
Need to table this thing.
I think we,
I don't know if we need to table it, but
No, we need to go one way or the other.
I just think there's going to be some issues upstream. We got some things we want to look at as a board, but I don't think this one project's going to be detrimental to what we're trying to do to protect our intakes. That's my thought. But anyway, any other discussion from the board? Questions for the applicant or follow-up?
my concern is that just lack of information on my behalf. I just don't know.
Well, I will say, and Ms. Walker, I know we corresponded. I appreciate you reaching out. I've represented the 5th District for 12 years, and that was the first correspondence I've ever had from City of Savannah. I know that may seem irrelevant, but I can't help but wonder how important has it been for 12 years? I mean, we've had growth along there. And I agree, it's, I know Mr. Lloyd, who sent the letter, mentioned in his letter that, that obviously water quality and protection doesn't know political boundaries, but I also happened to sit in a meeting with Mr. Lloyd when we were discussing the truck traffic for in and out of Savannah. That doesn't know any political boundaries anyway, but didn't get anywhere there either because it wasn't of interest to him. So I just have a hard time understanding the sincerity of the concerns, the dire concerns. I understand protecting drinking water. I trust the Clean Water Act. We trust these things. I don't know if anybody has anything to add to that. I mean, this is just all new to me, all of a sudden,
Well,
to get
there are
flooded
things
with
on the state.
information.
See where this was a big problem, I mean, it's right on Albacorn Creek. And I know all our water for the city of Savannah and half of Effingham comes out of Albacorn Creek, and if something happened to it, somebody would be up the creek without a paddle.
It could be in the next county up. It could be further up the river.
You
They
got-
wanna
you
go
got
and
Plant
control,
Vogel.
you know, right, I mean.
There's a lot of stuff coming down.
Yeah, I know that too.
Yeah, don't comment from the back.
Think about water flow.
The public hearing is closed. Don't comment from the back, please. We tried to get the board to discuss.
I would also offer, and I'm not a water resources engineer, but I would also offer the comment that the intake is where it is upriver. Somebody mentioned it, not downriver because of the salt water. So I would think that the fresh water, the upstream, the outgoing, with the amount of fresh water that is in that creek that flows down is much stronger, right, than
It does
the
follow
reverse,
tide
the reverse
also.
tide, right? So,
water goes
and you
up
mentioned it
and down.
earlier, sorry.
Water does go up and down at Albacorn Creek where the intake is.
I think if this was a manufacturing type facility where they were like the Milliken plant that was up there on the, I
Absolutely.
would have much more concern than just a warehouse,
I ju-
personally.
I talked to a landowner adjacent to the city of Savannah's property, and in 2016 or 17, approached city of Savannah about purchasing some of that property, and there was no interest at that time. Okay.
All right, does the board have any other discussion they want to have tonight related to this application? We've already closed the public hearing.
I'll just say that I agree with Phil.
Okay. If you want
I think it's fair to.
if the board wants to hear from you, that's fine.
Yeah, you own all, okay.
Yeah, everybody else.
My name's Chester Porter. I've owned that property since 1996. No one has ever, from the city, from the county, or anybody else, offered to buy that place. Never contacted by anybody, period. If there's a problem with that one, why is there not a problem with the warehouse they're putting above it and the warehouse they put below it?
Yeah, and I hear you. I think we're gonna have to look at the future growth. I'm just not ready to ask this board to restrict this application at this late notice.
I just wanted to point
I
that out.
think- I
Nobody,
think
city
Savannah
or
has-
county or
has-
anybody, nobody's
Savannah has
ever
now
contacted.
communicated to us that they have concerns, and so I think we need to look at those. But I'm not willing to pause this application, but I am willing to roll up our sleeves and look at the future growth around that area.
Thank y'all for listening to me.
We've never got a comment about anything on that, so.
Well, I'm good. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, but I agree with Commissioner Kiefer and Commissioner Floyd.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with Commissioner Kiefer on this as well. I know you've been done a lot more due diligence than I have on this one, so. Just wanted to make sure we're vetting everything we possibly can, and maybe we do need to take a stronger stance on future ones and work with the city of Savannah more and see what we can figure out going forward.
Definitely want to work with them.
I don't wanna hold
And we can look
something
at
up
the-
that's been spent so much money on and this short period of time after all this has been done. I don't think that's fair either, so.
And we can look at the site plan and see if there's some things as you get the reports back from Georgia Water, Soil and Water, and all the environmental, we can look at those together and make sure that we do the best we can.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Absolutely. So we're not without some opportunity to perfect this. Okay? Any other question or discussion from the board? I'm gonna call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Do the second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Statute Investments as agent for Joy Polk et al. To rezone 130.58 acres located on Old Augusta Road from AR1 to I1 to allow for the development of industrial warehouse houses, map number 477, parcel number 8 and 9, map number 477A, parcel number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in the 5th district.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. We got one more item, it's a variance request. Planning Board recommends approving the application by Statute Investments as agent for Joy Polk et al. For a variance located at Old Augusta Road to reduce required buffers between industrial and non-industrial parcels to allow for the development of industrial warehouses. Zone AR1, proposed zoning I1, which was just approved, map number 477, parcel number 8 and 9, and map number 477A, parcel number 6 and 10 in the 5th district.
So the variance request is to reduce the buffer requirements around the perimeter of portions of the property to 150 feet, but which would include a 20-foot high earthen berm. So if you look at, I believe it's the orange sections, yes, 20-foot tall berm, their little orange buffer, where that's shown is the 20-foot tall berm in a 150-foot wide buffer. So this is similar to a recent application we considered where the 300-foot required buffer is reduced to 150 feet, but the berm comes up to provide that sound barrier and to reduce the visual impact of this development. On the east side, and I'm going to move the cursor over it, over here, the request is to reduce the buffer to 25 feet. This land is currently zoned AR1. It's technically an industrial use with Savannah water intake. It's zoned AR1. It was never rezoned. I guess it predates zoning in the county. So the request from the applicant is to reduce the buffer here to 25 feet based on the adjacent land use. And here there's no buffer reduction because there's no impact, there's no buildings in this area. So as I said, the orange areas are where the buffer reduction from 300 feet to 150 plus, but that would include a 20-foot high berm. And then in this back area here, it would be reduced to 25 feet.
All right, I got a question. It seems like if you reduce the buffer on the east side, does that not bring you closer, though, to the concerns that are being raised about runoff?
Well,
All that's coming to the center anyway, right?
that's correct. So, let me see.
Okay.
So all of our runoff is actually flowing towards the center of the property and then through the wetlands out and around downstream. So that's the topography, existing topography, so it's not flowing towards,
And that's why you're putting the berms on this side to catch that water from?
No, sir. The reason we put the berms where we have is because of the residential use.
Okay.
To the south is industrial with the SDs here, and this is already zoned I-1 by Exeter. The property here to the southeast is owned by the state of Georgia, and it's all wetlands. And then, of course, as Ms. Teresa mentioned, this is industrial use for the Savannah here. And then you have to the north the residential property where you see the orange berm, and then in the center to the north is all wetlands.
So you're saying all that drains to the middle of the property, then it comes down and comes out where that little green, it's past Abercorn Creek and everything, and it goes into the woods.
Yes, sir. It comes down through the center and then out this way. Yes, sir.
So it bypasses Abercorn Creek where the intake is.
It comes in downstream in the intake. And if you actually look at Exhibit 4 in the City of Savannah letter, you can see they've actually depicted that for us, where it flows south and then east downstream of the intake.
How is it moved around the building? It flows back toward the building. How is that moved?
So we'll have to have a ditch on the building side to collect any water that comes to it, and then we'll channel that around the side and collect it.
Where's the intake on that? Can you point at the intake on that particular map?
Those are right, yeah, correct.
That's it right there? Is that flow controlled by Georgia Soil and Water and all the environmental and hoops they have to jump through? Is that looked at?
On the LDA for the erosion control plan, that'll have to be approved.
Okay. It's a little concerning to me that so close to that side. I hear you saying it's flowing back, but you got a good point. You got a building there. You got to get it around the building.
So it's actually a very similar concept to the project last month that was approved with the buffer reduction off of Effingham Parkway, where same thing, we turned the building around to face the residential and moved the truck courts away. So on that, we'll have to do the same thing there, is we'll have to collect with a ditch and against the building, and then we route it around the building and collect it either in the parking area, which discharges into the pond, or we'll ditch it around and collect it directly into a pond.
Wasn't there also a berm there as well?
There was a berm there as well, that's correct. So, but in this case, the surface water drains away from the neighboring properties into us. On the other project, it drained away from us, right? So then that berm caught it, and then we'd have to reroute around. So in this case, it's actually coming back on us.
So you're saying the parcel beside you that's owned by the city of Savannah is draining toward you?
That's correct. Now, I'm not saying their property drains towards us, but our property to our property line, it actually falls inward. It does not fall outward. The only way it can go uphill is if we pump it.
That building would run back inward into the detention ponds inside the property, is what you're saying.
I'm sorry?
That 28,000, whatever it is, 284,000 square foot, the runoff from the surface of that building is gonna run, it won't flow out, it'll go back onto the property into the center of the
That's what
property,
he's
right?
saying. And if it follows that green wetlands, then I can understand it's gonna go well south of the intake. It's gotta go through the wetlands. It's gonna be some good protection there. But if there was any possibility of it going straight over to the intake,
It's a pretty big
it's
problem.
pretty close.
But you'll have a ditch on the back side there, right?
So in this case, we have a pond shown on either end of the building. So we would provide a ditch along the long end of the building, and we would collect it in this pond, and then we'd collect the northern half in that pond, and that gets routed through our filtration system.
So the ditch comes down behind the long part of the building?
Correct. It would be
Okay.
between the building and the property line. I could collect that, and then it runs around into the stormwater ponds.
Help me understand this ditch, since we're talking about a variance here on the buffer. 3 foot, 4 foot, 8 foot, lined so that it can infiltrate the water table?
So you don't want to necessarily line it, because the grass well provides a filtration method, your initial filtration. And so I don't know what the size of that ditch is gonna be, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The reason I asked that, just, I'm thinking, I'm not an engineer, but, so you got this ditch. Right now, it's going, the water's going toward the center. But when you go down and dig this ditch, and there's this water table down here, now it's not necessarily flowing down anymore. It could flow this way as well because it's lower.
So the ditch, I'm anticipating that particular ditch to probably be no more than 3 or 4 feet deep, because it's not collecting a large amount of water. It literally is collecting.
It's not provide detention.
It's not. It's collecting 25 feet of water, 25 feet wide, nearly 25 feet wide of water, right?
That
So
warehouse is 25 feet wide?
So that buffer that we're proposing is 25 feet, so
Right.
it's collecting that water,
Okay,
right,
I got
on
you.
that 25 feet. So the ditch doesn't have, that particular ditch doesn't have to be that big, and it's not a detention facility, it's a collection method to reroute that drainage into our detention ponds.
Okay, and all the water on the buildings, that warehouse, is not gonna fall into, none of that's gonna fall into that ditch?
No, sir, because the way on a single loaded industrial building, the way we design those buildings is for that roof to slope towards the truck court. And we daylight, so we collect that roof water and we daylight it onto the paving, onto the truck court. So all the roof drainage dumps onto the truck court, it's collected in the truck court, and then it collects into the stormwater pond. So the roof design does not slope the other way towards the front of that building.
Okay, so you're only collecting the drainage from that 25-foot buffer?
Yes, sir.
We need to have a public hearing on this, see if there's any other additional comments from the public for or against this variance.
City of Savannah, Laura Walker, Water Resources Environmental Manager. I just want to put on record that we are asking for you to deny the buffer variance. We need all of the buffer that we can get to protect water quality. I'm very sincere when I stand here before you and say that this is urgent. We need to get together to protect our water quality. Now's the time. We have been a partner with y'all. We have helped you grow by providing water. Would not be here today, would not have been here last Thursday if it weren't critical, if I was not sincere, if staff was not sincere.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I say what I'd like to say, or I probably just need to keep it to myself?
I'm sorry, I do have one comment. The standards for building practices are usually built on 100-year floods. We have broken 100-year floods numerous times the last couple of years in this area. So he is telling you that he is building to the required standards of a 100-year flood on a system that will likely not be able to handle the storms that are coming towards it, and asking you to reduce what very little buffers are left. I'm begging you, please think about this. This is the drinking water at your house. If something goes wrong, there isn't another option. Thank you.
You just need to stretch, or you want to get up and say something? Okay,
No, I had asked him a question. Sorry about that.
all righty. All right, appreciate the comments tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing if there's nothing else. And we'll let the board have any comments or discussion about this variance request.
I'm extremely nervous about that building being there. I'm not gonna be a proponent for that part of it. I don't know why we would allow that being so close. I don't know what could happen, but if something did happen, there's not enough time or space or anything to do anything about that building if you had a hazardous spill there. And it could very well house hazardous materials. You don't even know what's gonna go in there. There are tenants of yours. And I'm not asking you a question. I'm just stating my opinion. I'm nervous about that building, and I would not vote for a variance there.
Without
That's too close for
something,
comfort.
something that could be to protect the,
We've got to side with Savannah on this, and no matter what's happened in the past, how things come about.
Hey.
That's drinking water at the end of the day, so
Mr. Chairman?
that's how I feel about that.
I'm not sure there is a variance on that side.
there's no, that variance is not being requested for that side?
Well, the issue is that, and this is what we brought up in the workshop, is our buffer tables based on uses, not on zoning, and that is currently an industrial use, and so therefore, certainly on the residential sides there is a variance request, but on that. It's considered industrial to industrial.
I thought our table goes by zones. I thought we have a table that.
No, it goes by uses.
By uses.
The uses. That's what we're talking about, changing it to by zoning,
It needs to be by
because it'd be simpler and clearer. So you're saying right now the variance that they're asking for is really the orange area.
Well, I think they wanted clarity on that, so they put in there for variance for the 25 feet, but
That
I
just
mean, if you
confused
go
it.
by the wording of our ordinance, states it's by use. And the use on that, it's the industrial and development water water intake. And so it is an industrial use, and so therefore we base that on industrial to an industrial for that line. For all the other ones where they have the berms on, those
Right, I
those
got that.
require variance.
If that's true, why are we asking for a variance on it? Because it says from 300 to 25 there.
Well, I think he was asking for clarity. He was
which
he
made
was
it more
asking for
confusing.
clarity on that because it said
Yeah,
AR.
Especially, I mean, if we're looking at uses,
What?
they're
What's that?
they're providing clean water as opposed to.
Well, no, I mean,
That's-
but I'm not making that argument at all.
Yeah.
I'm
I
simply
get it.
stating
I
that on
understand
that
why-
particular line, I can't say that there's a variance. There's an actual variance requirement based on how the ordinance is written.
I understand.
Yeah, industrial against industrial, he's saying basically you wouldn't really need a variance.
Right.
But-
It's 25 feet.
Yeah,
It's an industrial AR1.
if it was AR1, it'd be
Is it?
300.
Is it an I1 or AR1?
It's AR1 with an industrial use. And
How
right-
much industrial use can you have in AR1?
It predated zoning. So when the zoning came in, it's a non-conforming use for the property.
It's just an oddball use.
I do know everything was basically assigned AR1
Right.
the very first.
When we first started zoning.
Probably
Exactly, everything just had a
60
blanket
years ago,
AR1.
they said everything's AR1, now we're gonna. do the
It all
differences.
started out AR1.
Yeah.
Which is
Is there,
probably
is
why
there
there's some-
anything we can do with the,
only
when it comes to the site plan to make sure that we're protecting that side of the intake?
So I'm sorry, Tim, is the concern on that line water going over to
The intake?
the Savannah's property?
Yeah, I know you're saying it's sloping in, but you got a building there, you got impermeable surfaces there, you got, a 100-year floodplain come through there, it's gonna overshadow any natural flow of water toward the inside.
If we get a flood that rises up through the wetland system in the middle of the property and up over that ridge, we're in deep trouble. But I will offer this, since the 25 feet is, I guess, by right for use, I will, and I don't know the calculations in my head at the moment, but I'll put a 4-foot high berm within that 25 feet to, ensure that the surface water doesn't drain, over onto their property, that it's coming back onto us.
That would be something I would feel better about if you had a 5-foot berm and then the ditch to help control the water so that it definitely goes down toward, away from the intake.
But how long does it take for something to seep in the ground that close to a water source? If something spilled in there into a ditch?
I mean, we've got,
You'd have to know the souls. I mean,
we have less,
that's a can of worms
There's so
there.
many unknowns here.
we have
I'm
less,
comfortable with that.
we have less than 1 million square feet on this project. In fact, I think we only have about 600, maybe 700,000 square feet. There's developments within 1.5 miles of this that have 7 million square feet, 5 million square feet.
If there's a 100-year flood, it's just not this property, it's everything from Augusta coming. I mean, it's not gonna be just this we gotta be concerned
Which is a good
about.
point, it's gonna be.
I mean, it's just not gonna flood the
it's
Effingham
gonna come
County.
from-
My question, if a variance isn't even necessary, can we grant a variance where a variance isn't even necessary?
Well, that's what I'm saying, to me, it made it more confusing to try to clean something up when probably should have left it like it was.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
The variance where it's not necessary, that's pretty
Yeah.
good.
Well, it's not.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're trying to, but that decision probably could affect any other parcels. You know, that's kind of a policy, not a policy, but, well, it is more of a policy decision than it is a decision on this item.
Yeah. Well, I'd feel better if there was even a 5-foot berm to keep flow. Since it's probably by right, since it's based on use, by right, he can have a 25-foot buffer if he was pursued. I think I'd feel better if he put that condition in there, if you are gonna look at the variance, to make sure there's at least that.
It would disturb that 25-foot buffer. I just want to make that clear. We would put that berm inside that 25 feet. So we'd clear that 25-foot buffer and we'd build a 5-foot berm.
Right.
5 feet,
Yes, sir.
that would help a lot.
I think we ought to do
Do we
something.
know how many feet this building is from the water source there? Anybody know?
Oh, I can't read
By
that.
looking at the size and length of a couple of those buildings, I would say probably 350 to 400 feet. But, I mean, there's a risk quite honestly, there's a risk in the boat ramp, right, with hazardous spills, with gasoline and
Well, I get
oil
all that.
and.
I don't want to add to risk that exists.
I understand, but, I mean,
In my heart-
there's no way to collect that, but we would collect, we'd at least collect it, so that it's not directly,
Probably voted wrong originally.
All righty.
What we need to determine is a variant, do we need to hear that variance petition on that 25 feet? I guess is the question.
So Commissioner Kiefer has a question that, if we deny the variance, for which no reason to deny it on the orange, because that's a better thing for our constituents, could they still only go with 25-foot buffer because our zoning's been based on use, not on zoning? So they come and say, we're gonna do our 25-foot buffer, because that's what you've been doing, that's what, the way it reads now, it's based on use, not on zoning. So I would suggest that we move forward with something that is a little more restrictive, like the 5-foot berm, and get the constituents the berm on the other sides. That's the better scenario from what our current zoning allows us to
Berm
do.
would be better than just a buffer, I think.
Did I say that correctly?
Well, I mean, and Lee can correct me on this. Well, I mean, what it's one vote for all the variances, right?
Right.
And so if part of one of the conditions for those variances, just as he's voluntarily agreeing to put the berm there as a trade-off for the reduced buffer, I don't know why we couldn't have, if he voluntarily does it as part of the variance request, to put the 5-foot in the back. I don't know why we wouldn't be able to accept that as a voluntary condition of the variance as well.
Well, that's what I was basically suggesting. It's better than them moving forward with no buffer, no
Berm.
and holding us to the fire that they only have to do 25. If they would offer to do a berm there, I think that's a safer route to go with what we have to work with now. Anyway, I think we got all the information. Lee, did you want to add anything to what we're suggesting? Okay. I'm going to ask if you make that as a condition, that you would put the 5-foot berm there along with the ditching that you've already got. And our staff will look at the plans and the drawings, make sure it's what we're looking for.
Yes, sir, I agree to that 5-foot berm along that line.
Okay. To get to a point of resolution, I'm going to ask for a motion for approval of the variance, alternative 1, with the condition that we've just added.
I'll make a motion to approve, alternative 1 with the addition of the berm that has been offered by the petitioner.
Okay. That's a motion by Mr.
As stated.
Kiefer,
Second.
Second by Mr. Loper. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing none, that passes. So we have the condition we've added, so we'll do second reading at the next meeting, okay? All right, thank you. Thank you for all the participants tonight. That concludes our public hearings tonight. I want to go back and address the new business. I want to address the new business of those who have business with us so that you can take care of that, and then we'll let our staff go that doesn't have anything to present to us tonight, and we'll finish our business with those who just want to hang around. So we're going to start with item number, what items we have? 15. Is there any other new business tonight that anybody's here for? No other new business? I'm going to ask you if y'all would go ahead and carry your discussions outside. What's his name? Can you carry discussions outside? It'd be great, because we got a lot of business still to cover tonight. You can carry it outside if you want to, or you don't have to. All right, we're going to go to item number 15. And then if we can cover the stuff that staff's involved in, we'll let you guys go too, okay?
Thank you for adding that to the agenda.
I think new business
And
number
putting you
2.
first in new business, or second.
Yeah, I was waiting, I thought it'd be another hour. Don't worry, I'm not asking for a variance on anything. So the agreement is in front of you. I don't want to step on your toes, Mr. Chairman. So that's the agreement that you heard last month, or last meeting. I was not at that meeting. So I don't know.
Remember an agreement, I remember asking for annexation.
It's an annexation agreement, and if you can, for the record, just read that item before he starts.
Okay, but I don't remember having, addressing an agreement at the last meeting. We addressed the annexation.
Right, 2 annexation agreements.
Yeah.
City of Springfield does theirs by an agreement.
Okay, so this is, I'll follow you. All right, this is for new business item number 15, annexation agreement from City of Springfield with the of Effingham County for the D-Land Property LLC landowner. Is that good enough? Okay, proceed.
So I don't, is there anything up here? No, okay, so you don't have the maps.
We have in our
We do, we do.
You do have them?
We've got all the maps.
Okay. There are some,
last page.
may I approach the judge?
You may approach the bench.
So what you may not have, is since that meeting, we now have annexation petitions from this property owner, and that property owner.
Mhm.
So I can go through and tell you all which ones those are, so that we now have that one in hand and that one. So the 2 neighboring properties, we have those petitions. I think the county was sent, I know you received the Smith property, I don't know if you received the other one, which is the DRT property.
We have 2 red properties.
Right here and right there. So those have been received. So if there's any question about contiguity, that property is now going to be annexed. We have that petition, we received that.
That's which one
Here, I'll show you.
is that the one on 275?
It's right here. So
That's on
this is the
270.
one in question tonight.
Okay.
We now have a petition from that owner to be
Okay.
annexed. We now have a petition from that owner to be annexed.
Come look at this with me right quick, since we don't have it on the screen. These properties here are not requesting annexation right now.
Not yet, but,
Why don't you use the 60% rule and go ahead and get them all?
well, we can also use the 1/8 rule once this one comes in. And since I have that petition in hand,
1/8 rule, what's the 1/8? I'm not familiar with that one.
if the annexed property has a boundary that is more than 1/8 the circumference of the remaining properties to be annexed,
Okay,
they can be annexed via that method.
right. You have
It's
to get,
essentially a
and how many of
form.
these do you have to get to agree to that? Any percentage of it, like
That one,
just that one?
that one.
You gotta have so many voters. Of course, there's no residents since there's no voters.
Residents.
Okay,
So now that's the petition for that one,
okay.
which creates contiguity and gives us, and validates the 1/8 rule. That's already City of Springfield. Those are now Springfield that were voted on, and to Springfield as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I will answer any questions I can.
Are you gonna try to move back toward 21? I mean, and move it back all the way to,
Yes, the full intention would be that, I don't foresee us ever extending over what would be the creek line, which is that rear Springfield parcel, that's Effingham Creek.
this is the creek right here?
Correct. I don't see us ever going further than this,
Right.
because the whole intention is we've developed an overlay district that encapsulates roads, pathways for bikes, pedestrians, traffic.
Mm-hmm.
It creates some period of access roads that will help, hopefully, that will create how that commercial corridor will meander back through the remainder of Highway 21 into Springfield. We've got two applications now that we're going through that process to get their overlay district handled. The developments that will come out of those are far beyond anything we've had for the last 10 years. So it's a system that is working, it's working really well. And I think the city of Springfield would like to be largely in control of how that commercial growth comes through the remainder of Highway 21.
I'm good with that too. I was kinda hoping you guys would move down toward, instead of starting here, moving back.
Well, everyone we've done has been at the request of the owner. So the chance to move through the remainder of the industrial park, as those owners want to, that's why we do these annexations with an agreement. We don't try to, none of it's a secret. When they come to us, we have an agreement between ourselves, which it makes sense. Everyone knows what we're working on, what you're working on. So it works. The remainder industrial park would be great, but that Ebenezer line just kind of made sense once the Alderman property and the Love's property came in to say, this will now be the entrance to Springfield. Let's continue this further north.
So where's your city limit sign gonna be, here, or is it gonna be a mile up the road where the
It's
next
coming,
city
it's
starts?
gonna go there. It's gonna go there.
So you're gonna say, now entering, now leaving, now entering,
Well,
now
that,
leaving, now,
that-
because you
that-
got in a couple other places. when you
there's
get
a,
around the other side.
there's a strong plan for that entering and leaving to change in the near future. So we have, like I said, the second petition we have is for the Smith property. That's the next one that brings us further north up Highway 21. So that plan will continue. I don't know how long it will take, but that is the idea.
Yeah, is all the property from, the traffic light, because one time that used to be in and out of the city, that's all in the city now, right, all the way
Yes.
around?
Mhm.
All those landowners have.
All the way around.
have annexed it.
But
all
it's
the way.
not on the east side, it's not, right? It's just right here.
Yes, it's just at the traffic light.
Huh?
At the traffic light, it's just the east.
Just coming back towards Springfield, it's just,
Yeah.
it doesn't go very far.
It doesn't go very far.
Okay.
You have some on the west now, because you got that subdivision you're building.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I think, and I've talked about this with some board members, I think if the county and the city can come together on that overlay district to develop somewhat of a comprehensive code on how we develop that property through the remainder, it won't be an issue regardless of where that property is or whose governance it's under, because it'll be developed in a cohesive manner. And I think it's a very smart plan.
Can we just not go to the legislature and go ahead and get the whole thing zoned?
Sure.
You know, and I think you got the support of the board for this probably, but my only concern again is this is way outside the current city limits, other than this property. And quite honestly, remember, I wasn't for that, not that I didn't want the Loves to be in Springfield. I wanted to,
I know.
my same theory is contiguous and let it flow out, not go boom, boom, boom. Because you're in the city, out of the city, I think it creates public safety things about, you know, what's the address and where's it at, and I thought you said this was in Springfield. It is. Well, you gotta go a half mile out of Springfield to get to the Springfield,
Well,
that road is. So I just see issues.
They also have Rinkin mailing addresses. So
We
there
got
are.
Guyton mailing addresses down south.
But you can get a Guyton mailing
We
address
got
when you're.
enough issues.
One way out there.
Yeah.
Guyton has a huge one. So, yeah, there will always be issues we're gonna have to sort through when these things happen. Again,
But by this, it looks like the Loves could have been annexed in regardless now, or would have, right?
Correct.
Because you can cross 21, right?
correct.
So you
Well,
could have, once you had that on 21.
Whether, which
you
one
could've-
comes in first or last, yes,
No,
it would
that's
allow
not
you
really
to do
correct
that.
though, because if Love's wasn't there, you wouldn't be contiguous with these on the right.
But those
Yeah,
are
but
now.
you got,
in.
you got the treatment plant up there.
Treatment plant, what's the treatment plant?
The red,
treatment.
kind of
big-
by itself.
big red one.
Square in the middle.
Up here, up here?
I'll show you.
Down, that's Sprayfield up there.
You talking about this?
That-
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, so that's your contiguous, you're saying.
Correct.
So you got that, then you could do this.
Yeah.
Correct.
I got you.
And it's only separated here by one parcel.
Yep, yeah, I know, that was the argument that
And
was
then
given
that-
at the time.
That's moving forward. So, it's an outside the box idea, but it is working.
Okay.
Would you consider, annexing in the fire station property and building us a nice new fire station?
I've had that discussion.
We own the land.
We've had that discussion. I think I think that property could be used maybe a little better by somebody else. And I have another property that I think would be much more useful with a fire station. So I think it's a continued
talk to him.
conversation, but
What's the reason?
yeah, we've talked about it.
Just for, and what's the reason that constituents want this annexed into the city of Springfield? What was the reasoning behind it?
It's cheaper.
How's it cheaper?
Water.
Oh, getting the city water rates.
It's much, much cheaper. City of Springfield has an abundance of aquifer water.
Mm-hmm.
If Effingham County ever wants to get their hands on it,
Might be talking about it since we just looked at the intake.
Hey, all that discussion, we do need to find another source.
we have a green
We're
zone.
already talking about that. We're on that one already, yeah.
Thanks to that guy, we have a green zone well.
Ding, ding, ding.
You know, you have to verify that your rates, it does cost you more to get water to them to charge higher rate.
What, those guys, they're already on our system.
I know you have to verify that it actually costs more though, to actually charge more. You can't just do it on,
Oh, no.
gotta have your engineers run those numbers.
Yeah, it all falls back on the engineers, but
Anyway, my concern has always been, contiguous. I'm sure the next 25 years it'll all be contiguous. I just wish it would.
I
could
don't
do a
think it
little
will take,
faster.
I don't think it will take that long, given the growth that you have seen, given the growth that we have seen. I think, given that mechanism there of, yes, you can still pay our tax rate, but in the city water is so much cheaper, it's a business decision at that point, and it's more economical for them to come in.
So
What
you're
about for
asking-
residents? Does it pay for itself as a
Hmm?
residence? As a resident to be in the city
Correct.
and pay,
Yeah, 'cause
and
all
pay the
that-
millage versus the.
All the out-of-the-city water is done via water sewer agreement, and then the rate, so the tap fee is higher as well as the usage fee is higher. So yes, to come in, it would still be cheaper.
Okay.
Lesser impact fee and lower rate.
Mhm.
Well, we've opened Pandora's box, and I know, I like what y'all doing with Springfield and a lot of things. I mean, the management of Springfield's been awesome, so we appreciate what you guys are doing. So what you're saying basically is this, the petition's for this, and you've got this coming to us, which is gonna make it contiguous. So if we turn down this, you're gonna get it anyway.
It's already gonna be contiguous.
So the.
It's just a matter
box
of
is
time,
open.
and the only person that gets hurt by that is Doug Edwards.
Box is open, we might as well move forward. Okay. Any questions from him? From Mr. Matt? Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the annexation request.
Second.
Got a phone, I had that, almost got here this. Okay, motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette. Approve annexation request. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And by doing this, if there's any local roads in that area, you won't have anybody be able to open them up to through traffic.
Oh, yeah, I gotta welcome Springfield to the 5th District.
That's right.
I think this is the very first.
Had to do it. Couldn't hold back.
Had to throw that one little stone. All right. Is there any other new business tonight that anyone's here for? Is there any new business that the staff needs to cover with us that we can't do without you? You have anything?
I have a couple of
You wanna hit them real quick? Which items are they?
Can somebody else do them, so we can go? Bite?
I mean, is it something we
I
don't
can
have
do
to?
them, they're pretty simple.
Mark's got
All
number
right, let's
7.
go, let's go.
All right, if it's pretty simple, I'm gonna let the staff be dismissed and let our manager present them to us. And we're gonna go back here, take a break, and come back and finish this up in about 20 minutes, okay?
Do we need an executive session? I mean, do we need to
Eric,
take
you're
this back
not-
there?
Executive session tonight?
Wish we could go with you.
I can do the Kessler Loop,
Even better.
All right, and if, I mean, we could come back out here.
consideration, oh yeah, and I'll do the moratorium.
kick them back out here and he can keep it going.
Packet is for 21 days.
You guys are okay with that?
More room.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Staff can go that
I
needs to
hear
go.
some-
We're gonna grab a box lunch and, I'm
Okay.
gonna go to the restroom. I don't know what happened to me tonight, but I got.
Eric, you don't have to stick around if you don't want.
We're gonna come right back and finish. Right back to the-
Ah, mercy.
And,
Stephanie, what were you saying?
Shoot,
Oh, sorry, okay.
we done screwed up on number 2. Public hearing to consider the abandonment portion of Kessler Loop.
Yeah, we still, number one.
Can we just
yeah.
put that off to next time?
Well, I mean, I can say the residents, similar, in this case, it's similar situation and process as Webb Road. All the residents on Kessler Loop, which I think there are 3, approached us about an abandonment of that of the road, and so they would then maintain it themselves.
I talked to him, I told him it was coming up today, he said it wasn't necessary. They had already done the rest of it before.
Right.
Well, Lee,
Thomas talked to me, and I told him, I got it done.
Yeah, and so it's just got to get, there's 2 public hearings that are required on this, and it's simply the first public hearing.
well, I didn't tell anybody they couldn't stay, so I can open a public hearing. I mean, I asked if anybody was here for any of the items of new business. Think we're okay to make this be our first public hearing?
They already
Yeah,
got
because I think you're referring to public hearings related to zoning.
Okay.
And this
They
is
already
back
got
to
the
the regular
signs up.
agenda.
So that we open a public hearing. Anyone, there's no one here tonight to speak on it, so we'll have another public hearing anyway to give them an opportunity to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is our first public hearing, and we've had it. Item number 3, consideration to approve the agreement with the city of Fort Wentworth for the use of the inmate detail. We got our new rates.
Yes, and so just so everybody knows, actually the Pooler, and Port Wentworth rates that they're charging are similar to the Pooler ones, except I've had to adjust them for the most recent $2 increase that occurred with the new budget. They're good with this. It'll just take a place once they get once they get their hands on a van.
Okay.
They'll let us know the time of that so we can time the potential hiring.
Of the inmate detail, I mean, the officer.
Yeah, so potentially the hiring of the guard, and we have plenty capacity
All right.
for this crew.
Any question, discussion, motion for alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 4, consideration to approve a resolution for surplus property. We've all got that now.
Yeah, this is just a surplus resolution for vehicles. All these vehicles will be going to Enterprise to sell for us under their arrangement where we get the revenues back to us. And then the only other item, I believe, is a police scanner that also has to be.
They got some stuff with buffer rate from, I guess, from the landscaping. Y'all that'll be done locally, right?
Yes, unless it's a vehicle, it'll be done locally.
Okay.
Question, discussion, or motion for alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 5, consideration to approve a quote, 65-7-2323 from Enterprise Fleet for vehicles ordered.
Yeah, so we ended up being able to get our hands on 2 Chevrolet Equinoxes that another jurisdiction canceled. So we were able to get those. These are budgeted vehicles. We're just getting them a little bit earlier. These are going to the rec department as part of the replacement program.
Questions, discussion, or motion for alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve all number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Floyd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 6, consideration to approve contract 2023-08 with Coastal Regional Commission, CRC, Area Agency on Aging AA for fiscal year 2023.
This is the annual contract with CRC for aging and the meals.
Any questions? Motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 7, consideration to approve resolution number 22-032 to amend the schedule of fees related to water and sewer rates and sanitation fees.
Yes, so on the sanitation side, you all approved the new rates, which include the contracted increase from Atlantic. This is simply the portion of that that applies it to our customer's bill. And on the water and sewer, this is, I believe, the third installment of, if you remember 3 years ago, we've staggered the rate increases to finally catch up with Savannah's increases, and these are in our partner, and these are these reflect that third installment of the increase.
Will this allow us to actually balance?
Well, on the water side, we're getting close. The goal is so that we can run the entire system on rates revenue, and then do all of our repair and replacement and bond debt on cost recovery fees and tap fees. We used to lose money every year on, even with both of the rates and the cost recovery fees combined. Now we're in the plus with both, but we're not at the point where we need to be where rates are covering our operations. So this will get us that one step closer, and as we increase our customer base, that gets us even closer. So we've made some serious progress in 3 years.
The elderly special school exemption, what's define elderly? What age is that?
What'd you say?
The elderly special school exemption.
Was that on the waste?
It's on sanitation.
On the sanitation
Yes,
fee?
the last thing is they get at what age do they get a credit of $100?
I don't know, it's $100, but I believe the age is 62.
I'm just curious. I got 2 years to go.
Do I have to apply for it? or
Ask
do I
him
get
for
it
a friend
automatic?
first.
Probably do. I mean, how would they know? I mean, I didn't know that was even there. I don't remember.
Who do I apply for it with?
Tax assessor's office.
All right, make myself a note, tax assessor's office. Reggie, you got your deduction?
No, I haven't.
I'll
Can I
see
get it, you reckon?
Well, I'll see you down there tomorrow.
Huh? You don't say how old you got to be.
I don't
Says
think I'm getting
elderly.
that.
It's 62.
Can I get a refund for the last 5 years? All right, do you have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve all number one.
Second.
I'm on the wrong page here.
That's called Ben.
Motion by
right
Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Burdette. All in favor say aye.
there. Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Item number 8, consideration to approve a change order, number 1 with McWright LLC in the amount of $4,620 for the Guyton Fire Station, excuse me. If I get my sanitation deduction, I'll take you to lunch, as far as for pointing that out.
I didn't get the report before Eric left. It's probably it should be listed on what this $4,000 is for. I mean, we're obviously, you all awarded the
It's on there,
construction.
he changed something from, something about the sewer or something, but anyway,
Okay.
I read it.
Motion to approve alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loach, second by Mr. Loper to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes. 9 has been tabled. 10, Consideration to approve a petition requesting annexation as submitted by the city of Lincoln for property located off of Frederick Street, map number 447, parcel number 1A.
And that's it. And you can see that it's contiguous with lots of other properties within the city. It's my understanding they want to use that site as a new well site for the subdivision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions or discussion? Motion for alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loper. Approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes. Consideration to approve a form to appoint a voting delegate to participate in the ACCG 2022 policy agenda adoption.
Yes, sir. The Legislative Leadership Conference is being held at Jekyll Island this year at the end of September. And you are required to appoint a voting delegate for the policy business.
Jamie Deloach.
Jamie Deloach?
I'll second that.
We go,
All in favor say aye. He's got his mouth full.
You nominated, buddy.
we got a motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Floyd to approve Mr. Deloach as the delegate voting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And that gets us number 12, right?
Yep.
Consideration to approve an intergovernmental contract related to the Bryan County Mega Site Revenue Sharing Agreement.
Yes, this is an agreement with, multi-party agreement with the JDA and the 3 other counties who are members on it regarding the distribution of pilot revenues, but it also includes the reimbursement to the county for funds that we've approved in the previous resolution. And then the next item on the agenda is going to be the authorization to distribute the funds which is our contribution to the project. But this is, as we've discussed earlier, under those terms.
Do we want to wait on that next one to see if they get the bonds approved? In light of the
Well, it
lawsuit?
authorizes a payment, but on the next one, I don't know how it's going to be paid out. I'm going to call Eric Johnson on it. This is, our contribution goes towards building the road, the south entrance road. So I believe we'll probably be paying out as needed towards that project, but I'll find out.
I just hate to, surely it's going to go through. So anyway. All right, do we have a motion to approve the intergovernmental contract with Bryan County for the mega site?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And then consideration to approve payment to Savannah Harbor Interstate 16 Joint Development Authority for the Bryan County mega site. That's the half payment or the total payment?
No, it's, this is our full payment. The other half comes from the IDA.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper. Who second?
Roger.
I didn't hear it. All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And for the record, I got Mr. Burdette as a second.
Yep.
Okay.
Those funds will just be distributed as y'all need to. I mean, it doesn't mean y'all, depending on how that's set up.
There was an article today, the Rivet plant, it
Get a
was
percentage
sent
of
to
it.
us that the bonds, the
The
judge
validation?
denied approving them right now. He's got it on 2 weeks to give the JDA there the ability to verify how they're going to address the concerns of the lawsuit. So
Oh, wow.
we got the same situation with ours. We're issuing bonds with the JDA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of our incentive. No bonds, no Hyundai.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. We need to make sure we know this is going through before we give the JDA $9 million to sit on.
That's right. I'll wait for validation.
Okay. Item 14, consideration to approve resolution 22-033 to extend a moratorium on the rezoning from R, for R3 multifamily residential developments and R6 single-family residential developments for a period of 21 days.
Yeah, this is, I'm asking for, it's actually 50 days, because we want to align this with when our next meeting, next meeting is. And so, I'm just asking for approval for an extension, which is alternative one, but make it 50 days.
50 days. We want to put a date that's going to end on to make sure it's clear.
October 5th.
October 5th. Perfect. Any questions or discussion from the board?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Burdette to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And we already did item number 15. Any reports that you need to give to us tonight?
No, it's, remind everyone, we've got a meeting, should be now a very interesting meeting, with Savannah Water Resources tomorrow morning with the IDA. So I'll keep you informed on how that goes. That was initiated by us, but mostly, well, entirely because of looking at alternatives to work together with regards to that I-16 Old Augusta Road site on getting water and sewer over there. But I'm sure it'll leak into the vote tonight, so,
Unless you get a canceled meeting, no.
yeah. I'll check my email before I come in the morning.
Do we have a need for executive session tonight?
Nope.
Then we have executive session minutes, consideration to approve the June 21st and July 19 executive session minutes. I don't think I've seen those.
Yes, sir. Take one and pass it to me, please.
Yeah, we got it.
Same.
Workshop.
And while he's doing that, if I can offer a couple of reminders, that business summit with the chamber is on September the
I couldn't find a date on the email.
August the 9th, I think it is.
Their email, it didn't provide a lot of information.
It didn't.
It was odd.
What date is it? August what?
I guess all that's yours.
It is Tuesday, August 9th, from 8:30 until 1 at the Career Academy.
Yeah, we'll try to be there.
It's a business summit.
I won't be here.
But it's not like commissioner thing, like I emailed you, it's just if you want to attend type thing.
Right.
Yeah. But it's very similar to the retreat they have, kind of where they have
What was this last?
what it looked like anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think I was there with her.
Anybody got any corrections or additions to these minutes? If not, have a motion to approve them.
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the executive session minutes, June 21st and July 19th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously.
You get to sign all this stuff anyway.
I just got something more.
The rest of it's informational.
Yeah, that's just for you guys to have.
When's our retreat? When's our retreat?
September 9th.
That's one that says return to clerk.
You get them there. All right, you get us another.
All right. That should conclude our business. Do I have anything I've missed?
Weston. Please. I don't want to stay in the haunted house again if we don't have to.
Oh, yeah, no, not yet. We're not doing that.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper. Where's my adjournment? It's last page, I guess. Let me see it. Yeah. Motion, Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Burdette, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Can I get an extra to our car, please?
How about the Atlas place, the place over, the water at Atlas?
Yeah, I was